I'll say that we'll join later, is it?
Sorry, Amalia, what did you say?
Oh, I'll say that Mr. Edward will join us later, is it?
Yeah, there's some technical issues lah. Yeah.
You can bagi countdown lah, macam 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pop, you're live, right? You can bagi countdown.
Okay, everyone. Kita start live stream. Just wait for a while for the audience to come in.
Ya, then bagi Imran cakap dulu lah.
Asal macam dalam TV.
Memang pun.
No, nowadays it's like TV because on laptop you can watch Netflix and everything, you know. So
Yeah.
TV, yeah. And then kalau you guna VPN, let's say you masuk UK punya, you punya Netflix macam UK tu.
In fact, there's a lot of.
I selalu tengok the Office.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Perhaps later we can discuss Hasani because I jual ubat ni, tapi sebenarnya nak jual ubat paling besar I punya client is MIDF nak jual ubat pasal impact assessment ni.
Jangan cakap macam tu, kita
bank lain dah buat tau, OCBC dah buat impact loan assessment.
Yeah.
And then big fuss about it. I think dia bagi loan dekat buat solar panel 2-3 je. Lepas tu pukul gendang cakap kami buat impact loan assessment, we are good green boys, you know. But of course with Mark punya help lah, you know.
Yalah. Yeah.
And we can do that for you as well, right?
We can discuss that. But that one is driven from the group, so we'll look how we can go about it lah.
Dia senang actually.
Sorry. I think we can start. Sorry about that, Encik Faizal. I think Bella, we can start.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of MIDF, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today on the second day of our webinar, ESG and You Beyond Investing, brought to you by MIDF Research and MIDF Amanah Asset Management Berhad. I am Amalia Zarir and I will be your MC for today. In today's webinar, we will be inviting distinguished speakers and panelists who will be covering exciting topics, including how can we as individuals play a part in supporting the ESG agenda and how do we value ESG. We will also have the corporate spotlight segment where representatives from selected companies will share with us about how have their companies embraced the ESG agenda. We hope you will enjoy the program that we have lined up for you today. Just a reminder that you may type in your questions in the chat box on your right-hand side and I will bring them up during the Q&A session if time permits. All right, without further ado, let's move right into the first segment for today, which is a panel discussion on how to rate ESG levels of companies. Please join me in welcoming our first panelist, Encik Ahmad Faizal Sulaiman Han, Chief Business Officer of Malaysian Rating Corporation Berhad, and our second panelist will be joining us in a bit because he's experiencing some technical issues. The second panelist is Mr. Edward Sui, Sustainable Investment Analyst for APAC at FTSE Russell. And the panel discussion will be moderated by Encik Muhammad Sani Muhammad Zainuddin, Chief Executive Officer of MIDF Amanah Asset Management Berhad. I will hand it over to you, Encik Sani.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum and good morning to our distinguished speakers, participants and fellow colleagues. I hope yesterday's session has provided some insights to how ESG is for everyone and not from just a commercial sense. So in this first session, we will delve deeper into the world of ESG rating in our local capital markets from our equity and fixed income experts. Hopefully it will not only trigger our thoughts further on this issue, but also what are our action plans moving forward. Not wasting any time, then I would like to actually give the floor to Encik Faizal to actually give a few words and also to start his presentation. But I'll just give a sweetener first for the first question. This is in everybody's mind. Why is important for companies to have an ESG rating? Is it just a current fad due to the pandemic, or there's more than meets the eye? I think that we can actually pass it to Cik Faizal, and with that follow up with Mr. Edward. I think this question has been drummed up time and time again with so many people, but let's hear it from the experts. Over to you, Cik Faizal.
Thank you so much, Sunny, and thank you to MIDF for having me here. Perhaps I can answer your question in a different manner. Perhaps if I can go through my slides, then hopefully the answer is within the slides. But just at a glance, why company would require ESG rating? Well, I mean, of course, there's the overall and the eventual benefit globally that we want the world to be a better place, and we want to be environmentally, socially, and put importance on governance. But in addition to that, there are direct benefits, especially in the bond world, where we see price advantages for having ESG compliances, and also certain other advantages in the form of fiscal policy, such as tax advantages and also reimbursements. Without further ado, I will share my slides. Right. Can you see my slides? Yeah. Sunny, can you see my slides?
No, unfortunately.
Can you see now?
I can see it.
You can see it, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. You can see it? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Not on my side, but never mind. Go ahead if you can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick introduction for those who know Mark, because today's topic is about ESG rating, but I wanted to clarify that we're actually a credit rating agency, which is approved by Securities Commission, and we have the external credit assessment institution status by Bank Negara. Most of our activities are involved in corporate credit ratings, and we do specialize in project finance ratings and structured finance ratings. Apart from that, we also rate financial institutions and other sovereigns and counterparties. And recently, in the last 3 to 4 years, we've been doing impact bond assessments. Okay.
All right.
Just a bit of introduction. Some recent events that took place last year. Our shareholders mainly comprise of insurance companies, investment banks, and stockbrokers. However, in August last year, a 19.7% stake was acquired by Moody's into Mark, and the remaining 10% is by CARE, which is a rating agency from India. So that's why you see the 30% ownership by credit rating agencies.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so when we talk about ESG rating, firstly, I would like to clarify at Mark, I think, or for other professionals who are familiar in the industry, we are concerned with the overall impact of any initiatives. It can't be just for renewable energy, but the initiatives neglect social or sustainable initiatives. Likewise, if we see a company or project having sustainable initiatives, it also cannot neglect environmental and social issues as well. And that's why it's called impact assessments. We look at the overall impact. Now at Mark, we provide an independent external review for bonds and sukuks to be issued under, amongst the most famous principles would be the SEEDS SRI framework. Okay, and I'd like to highlight for assessments which for secondary opinions on SEEDS SRI framework, there is a reimbursement by SC of 90% of the impact bond assessment fees. Okay. Other standards include the ASEAN Green Bond Standards, ASEAN Sustainability Bond Standards, ASEAN Social Bond Standards, and also standards by ICMA. And last but not least, which is the pinnacle of all standards, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. As you can see on my right hand side, there are 17 of these. I don't think this needs any further introduction. I'm sure most everyone is quite familiar with the 17 UN SDGs. Now, perhaps if I before I go any further, perhaps I can just give give me 1 second. Yeah, I think my slide has animations. Just give me a second. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see my slides? Yeah. Okay.
It's not in the slide. It's not in the slideshow mode.
Yeah, because the slides actually have animations, but let me just. Okay, so the nature of SDGs.
Yeah.
Some SDGs are more of a driver. Let's say, for example, SDG 8 and 9. They're more of a driver type of SDG. And some SDGs are more of an outcome type of SDGs. But the most important thing amongst all of them are the SDGs are interconnected. So interactions between SDGs are widespread and complex, requiring trade-offs between SDGs to be managed. And these SDGs can also be mapped to eligible financing categories, such as the green loan principles or green bond principles, and also the social loan principles and the social bond principles. I think if you go to our website, you can see our impact assessments on various angles. We have a few on the green angle, which are mainly solar power plants. We did an impact bond assessment for UiTM solar plant and Leader Energy. We did sustainability assessments for Sangdabi Property and also Agroto, and we also did a social impact assessment on Magna. So you see the application is widespread, and as long as the SDGs are identified and aligned, we can surely assess it and give it a certain assessment. Let me continue. Now, in identifying the SDGs, some SDGs are more infrastructure driven, such as SDGs 6, 7, 9, 11, 12. Some SDGs are more technology driven, some are maritime driven, and some are linked to oil and gas. Now, I've picked the example of oil and gas here just to allude to the fact that I think there's a common belief that just because you're doing something involving in oil and gas, that you automatically do not qualify to get any kind of positive impact assessment, which is not entirely true. You will see in my later slides, right? Now, the three key principles of SDGs. First of all, it's meant to be applied globally. Hence why it's the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So there's a universality characteristics in the SDGs. As we can see, 60 out of the 169 targets, 62 are related to means of implementation, 19 are policy measures, and 88 are outcome targets. The second main criteria is that the SDGs are formed in an integrated approach, right? And a la carte approach is not recommended. It is insufficient to achieve the SDGs on a goal by goal or target by target basis. The third criteria is SDGs has this concept of leaving no one behind. Countries are to work to reach the last mile. Countries will need to re-evaluate their approaches, development, interventions, and costs associated with leaving no one behind. Now, the UN SDGs are dynamic. I think, some people ask me, are they if I don't meet this criteria next year, and I have a new initiative this year, which is a recent trend. The UN SDGs are dynamic, and it will be how should I say, adapted to recent trends, and they take global opinions into account, right? If I could focus on a particular industry, if I take the oil and gas industry, for example, so there are many ways a participant in oil and gas industry can qualify for positive impact assessments, such as how they would have contributed to transition to clean energy, displacing polluting fossil fuels with least polluting fossil fuel gas. Okay, and then on the social angle, the oil and gas industry could also create direct and indirect jobs, provide local employment, workforce, and supply development. Okay, and at the same time, if the participant or the industry invests in wind, solar power, as well as battery technologies, so there are many ways where particular activity can be, if you like, if I can use the word, hedged with other activities that makes the whole process sustainable and can qualify for an impact bond assessment rating by Mark. I'd like to zoom in on an example, because some of the impact bond assessments that we gave are project driven. For example, the solar power project by Leader Energy and UiTM are on projects. So these projects would qualify for gold ranking on the impact bond assessment on a green angle, as they adhere to the goal number 7, which is affordable and clean energy. So some examples of qualifying projects will be wind, solar, hydropower, biomass, and geothermal generation. And the lending criteria includes renewable energy generation, energy distribution networks, renewable energy technology component manufacturing. Another key component on project financing that we look for is SDG number 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Okay, so from one United UN SDG pillar, we actually look at the various sub items under it. For example, transportation projects for public use, irrigation and energy projects, communication projects, including internet coverage and mobile phone. And so if the project includes sustainable resilience and there's a, sorry, that's my son.
It's okay, Faizal. This is a new age. Working from home. Before I can interject, you don't mind, can you please increase your slide into a slide form rather than you can actually reduce on the left side. I think some of the viewers are requesting to
boleh can.
Thank you.
Can? Boleh?
Okay, better. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So very good. So that's how we've approached our assessments on project finance. Now, after we've identified the initiatives which are aligned to the UN SDGs, we analyze them and we see their level of impact. For example, an activity which has an unintentional or they have an isolated positive activities, so this would be considered as a less impactful, whereas an initiative which has an overall and strategic business contribution, or when the measurement is outcome based, so then we would give more marks in terms of the impact, right? And this would determine whether the impact of the identified SDGs would qualify for a a bronze, silver, or gold ranking in our IBA assessment. So to summarize, our process is first of all, we identify and we measure the impact significance analysis. And then secondly, we evaluate whether these initiatives are compliant with the principles that they wish for. I'll give you an example. Agroto, for example. Agroto is a vegetable farm in Cameron Highlands, right? They run a massive vegetable farm in Cameron Highlands. But when we looked at the case, not only do they produce vegetables, which is a positive thing as it increases our food security levels, but it also provides employment to the local communities, and they also contribute to the vegetable farming technology as a whole in Malaysia. So that's why, as opposed to the obvious giving a green angle IBA, we gave it a sustainable goal IBA, right? So what we're trying to say is, if you want to do good, there's many ways to do it, right? Just because you don't meet the environmental angle doesn't mean you can't meet the social angle or the sustainable angle, right? Next slide. Okay, I just wanted to highlight the difference between corporate and project SDG financing. As you can see here, for project financing, all the SDG themes are based on the project or asset based. Particularly when we look at sukuks, for example, a lot of the requirements are confined to the utilization of proceeds of the sukuk, the bond, for example. Recently, we did an impact loan assessment for OCBC. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, OCBC is a green entity as a whole, but for the loans that they've disbursed, they would have met the criteria for us to give a gold impact loan assessment, right? Now, for a corporate impact assessment, for example, we did a sustainability impact assessment for Sandabi property. Now, these requirements will be more onerous and would have to be applied group-wide, right? So when we looked at Sandabi property, they already had sustainable initiatives ongoing for quite some time, and when we assessed it and they qualify, hence why we gave it an impact assessment of gold on the sustainability angle, right?
I see.
So this is these are further notes on the difference between corporate and project SDG financing. Just to highlight some of the different SDG goals, some of the SDGs at the bottom, they're more of a mitigant. So they are responsible to mitigate potential negative impact. And going above, you have some of the SDGs which have potential or direct or indirect positive impact. And the top ones, 8, 9, 13, and 17, will have strong potential for positive impact at scale. So what we're trying to say is, just because you hit the different UN SDGs, I mean, plenty of UN SDGs doesn't mean it's all good. I mean, different UN SDGs would have different light in how we would assess it. And I think I've mentioned this earlier a few times. This is the final result of our impact assessment, whether it's gold, silver, or bronze. As I said, first we identify the initiatives, and then we map it to the UN SDGs, and then we measure the impact. And of course, I think I should highlight this. For example, when we look at a project on an environmental angle, after we assess its green angles on, we would have to see that the efforts are sustainable. So we do perform a final sustainability check before giving it a gold, silver, or bronze. And I'd like to highlight also, sustainability also means being able, of course it means being able to continue, but a project is only able to continue if it meets all the credit requirements, or if it makes all the loan repayments, right? I think there's a confusion about if we give a goal impact bond assessment to a project, but next year it defaults, right? So if we see that project is not financially viable, it won't even qualify for bronze, right? Right. Although not directly rated, but we have to have some kind of assessment on the credit worthiness of a project, even though we just do an impact bond assessment. It's just that when we do an impact bond assessment, we don't give a detailed credit scoring as we do in our normal credit scoring. I hope that's clear, and I'll be happy to take any questions from the floor, or if you have any questions, Annie.
Oh yeah, I think we have quite a few. I think also coming from it, but thanks, Jeff Faza. I think it's very enlightening to see that, especially for rating agencies, not only look at from purely clinical, assessment, which is basically, as you know, financial numbers and whatnot, right? But also extend to beyond that, which is what this webinar hopefully will resonate across our viewers, and hopefully rakyat lah, our rakyat Malaysia. And there is actually the human element here to actually assess not only as is basis, but also what do you do next, in terms of your credit assessment, in terms of your impact assessment, and how you actually contribute. Because I will actually give my end conclusion to this session later, which you already mentioned to some extent, but I shall not mention it now yet. We'll move on. Probably the same question I would like to actually forward to Mr. Edward. Mr. Edward, welcome and good morning. His is now up. This is what happens to notice law. Yeah, when we tried everything is good, but comes to the same day, there's some technical issues. That's the way forward. Hopefully, this will improve further. Why, just to recap the questions that I've asked here, why is it important for companies to have an ESG rating? Is it just a current fact due to the pandemic, or there's more than meets the eye here?
Yeah, sure. You can hear me okay, right?
Sure, yeah.
First of all, thanks for having me today. I'm very happy to share my opinion here today. So I think to that question, I think it's a very good question. I think ESG has been around for more than a decade, even before the pandemic. So a lot of work's actually been done around it. So I think in the past, usually it was usually kind of taken on by more kind of sophisticated investors and companies who kind of have if you like a more specific kind of ESG objective. And there was obviously a lot of kind of awareness and recognition around ESG within the kind of business and investor community. But I think kind of before the pandemic, or even before the Paris Agreement, I think most of the ESG factors were not kind of widely integrated into the kind of investment and business practice, or even kind of asset allocation. So I think but over the past couple of years, ESG has built a lot of momentum. I think especially last year, and a lot of attention has been called to ESG. You have kind of the the side of where a lot of people start to see ESG assets to kind of outperform the market and even the peers. But kind of on the other side, you also see some of the industries kind of really saw a lot of success in the market. People actually start to look at the ESG impacts as well. Kind of beyond traditional financial metrics. So I think the kind of importance of ESG really allows kind of investors to construct their ESG investment portfolios around kind of companies who have a better kind of ESG performance, who have better resilience and kind of corporate governance practice. So I think it's very important for companies to have good ESG ratings, so that they're able to demonstrate to investors that they can manage ESG issues very well, and then they can attract investor interest, and they can actually, that would then obviously lead to a lower cost of capital for them as well. And also I want to mention, the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index that we launched in December 2014 in partnership with Bursa Malaysia. I think it has about 6 years of history now. I think the standard version now contains around 76 stocks, which initially were grown from initially around 24 stocks. So I think just from that kind of growth in the numbers, you can see there's a lot of progress that's been made in the market, and kind of over the period even before the pandemic.
Great. Since you both of you have able to read my mind for the next question, you've already answered some of the questions that I wanted to put forward. Anyway, I think it's obvious. Just to conclude, I think from both of the distinguished speakers is that ESG's rating is actually making an impact, obviously, on the company, industry, market, and the country in general. Now, I think I just want to highlight that this is just not a fact, as what you have mentioned here, but I think for the layman, especially from the retail investors or the hardworking workers out there, which I think education is, and also awareness of this ESG, and that question to some extent has been answered yesterday. It's not a technical word that people use just to push off another new product, right? But it's been with us for a while now. It's just that it's been highlighted in so much apparent over the last, more so for the last 1 year or so, right? But I think to make them understand in terms of how these are rated, also that will open up to more potential companies to reach out to. I understand that even Mark has a reach out program, to actually assess companies or campaign to educate, say, look here, rather than we wait for companies to approach the rating agencies or people like FTSE or regulators, why not we actually approach them and say, okay, that's not that difficult, if you want to be ESG, the benefits are there. So in that extent, how is an ESG rating determined in a very layman's point of view, so that I think to the benefit of our viewers, they will understand better. Of course, there must be that criteria that you have put in place. So with that, since Mr. Edward, you just came in, I would give the floor to you first, and then after that, follow up with Encik Faizal.
Yeah, sure. So I think ESG ratings, as you mentioned, it's has really made a lot of impact on kind of different levels, from kind of the company, industry, market, kind of national, or even kind of the retail investor level. So I think kind of on the broader market level, ESG ratings has really shaped how the kind of market generally approach ESG investing or kind of ESG practices. So for example, our first figure methodology has really set the standard for how kind of companies with good ESG performance are assessed kind of in different markets as well as in Malaysia. And then this will then enable for more sophisticated investment managers to integrate ESG into their kind of investment processes by with different kind of investment styles, investment strategies. They can then based on the ESG rating to kind of inform their strategy. And I think kind of by understanding how companies are really doing in terms of not only on one particular aspect, but kind of throughout the entire ESG spectrum as well. And then, as you mentioned already, on the other hand, regulators are obviously, they're also ramping up their efforts to kind of mandate more ESG disclosures from companies to improve transparency. So then that can all kinds of investors can then make better investment decisions, I think. And then on the kind of industry level, ESG ratings really allowed kind of the investor community to really better understand kind of the ESG characteristics of different industries through the ESG lens, such as identifying kind of what sectors are green, or what sectors are probably ESG themed, or what sectors are kind of just transition to a low carbon economy, and kind of understand what ESG issues are pertinent to a specific industry. And kind of that level of understanding on a sectoral level then really allows, again, investors to make better decisions. And then they can obviously also to kind of inform their strategy in a way that they would then can engage more actively with underperforming sectors through corporate engagement and shareholder actions as well. And then I think finally on a company level, ESG ratings are very fundamental in really driving companies to become increasingly transparent on their ESG disclosures performance. As I said before, as a lot of investors start to look at ESG ratings, and they start to push companies to disclose more and more on ESG. So it's very important for companies to have an ESG ratings. And at First here we actually undertake a lot of kind of corporate communication work around our kind of semi-annual ESG rating process to help companies understand better what the standards are and what are kind of expected of them in terms of what they do and how they should be disclosing.
Okay. So based on that, do you see that there's an increase in terms of companies coming forward to FTSE Russell and say, what do you need and how can we actually adopt this rating? Or is it does FTSE Russell actually approach these companies, especially at least from equity space, Malaysia, to say, hey, you are entitled for this rating, would you like to be included? How does it work?
Yeah, so I think for our methodology, I think one thing that we're very proud of ourselves is that we try to be very objective and transparent in how we approach our methodology. So our methodology is published to the companies that that are on it and publicly as well. And our methodology actually starts from, we do try to, kind of incorporate internationally defined standards and frameworks as much as possible. So GRI and SASB are the starting points. So, our companies are quite well aware of these standards already. And then we have 14 different themes in our methodology, and we would then kind of, look at for each of the kind of themes, what would be the leading international framework to incorporate. So, for example, for climate change, TCFD has been, one of the biggest kind of framework. Well, it's actually the leading framework in the world now in terms of kind of climate risk assessment and reporting. So we would, align our kind of climate change theme approach with TCFD, as well as TPI, which is a new kind of initiative, which is called Transition Pathway Initiative. So I think we have a very kind of robust and kind of objective methodology, and obviously companies will be able to look at if they want to, for example, improve their ESG performance and improve their ESG ratings to be included on one of our indexes, then they can obviously reference our methodology and see how they can improve on it. And as I said before, I think we do have some kind of outreach programs with different kind of partners to kind of encourage companies to support them to improve their disclosure as well.
Okay, all right. I think it's leading to a lot of questions, and I know I from issuers' point of view, even assessment like Mark, Cik Faizal, I think he has really, from slides, he's also excited in terms of how they look to it. But Cik Faizal, you have anything else to add on this matter?
Yes, I think in terms of how to rate ESGs. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier we looked at the overall impact. I mean, one example would be more specific to bonds and sukuk issuances. So how one would rate ESG? Of course, there are many ways, but specifically to bonds and sukuks, we have we use three levels of principles, if you like. In the local side, we use the SEEDS SRI framework. If you go a bit above, it's the ASEAN social bonds or green bond standards. And if you go beyond that, we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, of course, in applying or in advocating ESG throughout. Now, I've said earlier, there's no one size fits all, as Edward quite rightly pointed out. And in this business of advocating, if you make it too onerous for a person, you might have the opposite effect, as opposed to asking people to embrace it. So what I would say is this: the job to embrace ESG is not for companies only, and it's not for regulators only, and it's not for sovereigns only. It's everyone's job, right? Yeah. So I mean, if you ask me, stop asking questions. How are you gonna get ESG rated? Just do it, right? Just do it, and you hopefully you will see the benefits. What I say to our clients is that some of them vent out to us that they don't see the immediate benefits. In fact, they see they see disadvantages because they have to spend money. Of course, they have to spend money for the impact bond assessment, right? So, but the long-term benefits would take some time for the how should I say, for the mindset to set in and to see the real benefits, especially in developed markets, whereby the immediate benefit is obviously reduction in cost of funds, right? Where we see when investors tighten their assets to only ESGs and reward issuers for issuing ESG compliant sukuks, right? So yeah, that's it from me. Yeah.
Well said, Cik Fazal. I think you touched a few key factors which was also mentioned in yesterday's session. Yeah, one is mindset. The other one is also to get that buying in across all walks of life, not only in terms of the regulators, but also the corporates themselves, right? And on top of that, and also where Mr. Edward was mentioning earlier as well, I think both of you have mentioned your reference for your selection into ESG. At the moment, I'm sure everybody is aware that there's no one standard, acceptable ESG rating, right? Globally, everyone has their own interpretations, reference. Some are very rigorous, some are skewed towards the 3 pillars. But overall, I think where we are going is that it's good that you have to start from somewhere, right? But when things like this happen, what the question, if you are in the financial market, I think one of the discipline is that then how would you actually find the sourcing and acquiring of this ESG data? And that is actually a big challenge, right? One is actually to get the so-called correct data from the right source, and also consistently from that, in order to actually express, to actually reflect whatever the information is provided. And I think at that part, being corporates, for every dollar that they spend, they want to see how much they're going to get back. And that's the other mindset again, because we need to move away from that instant gratification, that materialistic impact that corporates always say that how much would I get if I would spend now? What's the waiting period? What's the break-even point, right? So with that, and you also alluded about cost, right? So like I said before, you've read all my mind, in that sense, will ESG compliance for rating purposes or otherwise, would this lead to an increase in compliance costs for the companies, which actually outweighs its long-term benefits? I think this is something real that while we do need to actually have those assessments done, but probably the cost is also an issue. What the message I'm putting across is that maybe you need 2 parties, okay, to tango or to clap or whatever, right? Maybe the cost should be reduced, not to an astronomical level, so that we actually open up the playing field to the smaller companies, okay, that wanted to be ESG, but because of the cost implication, they can't afford. So what do you think on that basis?
Is it for me first?
Yeah,
or
since you're on the roll, I give it to you first. Yeah, then I'll pass it to Edward.
Well, what I would say to that is, I mean, if I remember during my university days, I mean, we learned about economics, right? So I'm sure we've all heard about supernormal profits and normal profits, right?
Okay.
Right. So if you imagine the cost associated is the cost that will bring the supernormal profits to normal profits. It's a trade-off between having profits for the next 10 years or having supernormal profits for first 2-3 years and go out of business. In my opinion, the cost is not extra. I mean, it's not significant. And furthermore, let's say if you take our impact bond assessment, for example, there is a 90% reimbursement from SE, number one. Number two, if for the companies and the projects which fully embraces these values would realize that they are doing themselves a favor by ensuring that their actions are sustainable, right? And you are also ensuring that your project will be viable in the long run. I'll give you an example. When we look at when we assess a solar power plant, for example, right? That's why it's important for me to try to migrate the terminology between from ESG to impact, okay? Because we have to measure the overall impact. If you imagine a solar power plant, a 50 megawatt solar power plant, do you have any idea what kind of land are we talking about? We're talking about 50 hectares of land. That's about 200 or 180 acres of land. That is as far as the eyes can see. Now, if you imagine, I'm building a solar power plant, I'm doing something good for renewable energy, but at the same time, I'll be chopping off trees of these vast amount of land, right? So there has to be an overall impact assessment, because there has to be countermeasures to counter that. So when they build the solar power panels, there has to be proper water irrigation, there has to be proper replantation activities, there has to be a proper social activities to take care of the local communities around it, right? So you will see that the additional cost involved is actually ensuring your long-term survivability, right? And then you can see that, especially in these times of COVID, companies which have adhered to sustainable initiatives have a better chance in weathering through this pandemic. Thank you.
That was well said, Encik Faisal. Over to you, Sir Edward.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Faisal. I think he's mentioned a lot of good points, especially, companies that they're trying to, do better on ESG is really just doing themselves a favor. I really agree on that point. So I think, kind of the perspective of kind of ESG as a kind of, compliance or just the kind of additional costs, it is a very kind of, common kind of view around that. But I think, the kind of perception or sentiment around that is starting to shift now globally and regionally as well. Sorry. So I think, when companies start to see ESG as, rather something that is kind of a compliance driven performance kind of aspect to one that is actually is kind of strategic value to generate new returns, then they will start to see ESG not as a cost but rather as an opportunity. So I think kind of the more traditional view around ESGs always started from kind of risks. So we need to talk about a lot of kind of frameworks and things that starts with risk. And then what I think Mr. Faisal was talking about is the impact, which is kind of the opportunities that is kind of being generated from some of these ESG initiatives. So I think kind of over the long term, obviously, when companies start to see the benefits and value of ESG, then they will see it definitely outweighs the compliance cost. And not to mention, especially ESG is becoming mainstreamed around the world now. So if companies who don't start to do it would then be seen as laggards, and then they actually fall out of favor from kind of investors' point of view. So I think it is very important for companies to start to do better on ESG. And it's just to kind of reiterate the point again. I think kind of ESG is not just a compliance cost, but rather is really good kind of opportunity for companies to unlock new kind of activities that potentially bring benefits to them.
Okay, great.
Sorry, Sunny, if I can add, I think my earlier answer was to highlight whilst there is cost, there is the opportunity to do good, but I think it will gradually go to the trend whereby the real direct benefits would outweigh the cost, right? Yeah. Of course, it will take some time for us to reach there, but I'll cite an example in Malaysia. In fact, I think if you recall, HSBC issued a 500 million SDG bond about 2 years ago, right? So what are the costs involved? Well, they already have a lot of loan officers or relationship managers screening all the loans. So what are the costs involved? the cost involved is to actually, how should I say, add ESG implementations into their loan disbursements filters. How much would that cost? I'm not sure, but we're talking about adding cost of services here, right? We're not talking a cost about building a separate building for HSBC to disperse ESG, right? And there's probably cost in terms of time. There's education time involved, but the real benefit that happened for that SDG issuance, they claim to be a 30 basis points lower than what they would normally get in the issuance, 30 basis points of savings. So I think the benefit in monetary terms would have easily outweighed the cost associated with it, right?
Great, well said. I'll move to some of the questions from the floor. The first one is there are a few mechanism that GHG emissions can be priced as part of the cost of capital. Are there any methodologies that stakeholders can use to incorporate a wider sustainability risk in asset valuation beyond just ESG rating? And it's open to both of you.
I think beyond ESG ratings, I think most investors would rely on credit ratings. Okay, credit ratings. I think beyond that would be in Malaysia in particular, the impact assessments that we do are mostly on the onset. Okay, and it's not a continuous annual monitoring. Perhaps this is something that can be improved. The annual monitoring of the ESG is something voluntary at the moment, and in fact, the reimbursements of our impact bond assessment is only applied for the initial rating. So beyond that, I think investors could potentially benefit from annual monitoring, and obviously, if there's a full credit rating, I think we on our end, we try to incorporate some kind of a sustainable, some kind of basic sustainable comments into our credit rating. So that's something that investors could look at. I think when investors look at our credit rating, we try to be cognizant of the fact that it's the pandemic now, and our rating would have some forward-looking view in 2 or 3 years' time of the survivability or the sustainability of the particular company.
Okay. Yeah. What? You want to go on?
Yeah. So I think it is a very good question. I think that there are obviously a lot of international frameworks or metrics, if you like, that investors look at beyond ESG ratings. So I think obviously I think the GHG emissions pricing has been mentioned, and that actually relates to kind of the broader kind of carbon decarbonization kind of pathways, and then more broadly speaking towards kind of climate change. So I think what I think that this is a very, very, very good question. I think kind of from our perspective, we understand kind of ESG rating is not just a single score to kind of to just look at particular what E is or S is or kind of G is, right? We want to incorporate the entire ESG spectrum, and even to include climate change as well. So actually in one of our 14 themes, one of them is actually climate change. And as I mentioned before, what we do in our methodology is try to be kind of as kind of comprehensive and as kind of objective and transparent, and as well as to kind of incorporate the latest changes. So just to give an example, actually for our climate change theme within our ESG ratings, so we I think just in June this year, we actually updated it to more closely reflect TCFD, which is the latest climate change framework, and as well as TPI, Transition Pathway Initiative. So TPI actually looks at kind of, I'm not going to go into too much of the methodology, but it actually looks at kind of 2 aspects, which is the management quality and the carbon performance. The management quality looks more at kind of what the kind of company's management is doing around kind of managing the climate risk and opportunities, whether they have any kind of oversight structure around kind of climate change issues. And kind of on the carbon performance side is actually to look at kind of the performance of a company's in terms of carbon emissions with a forward-looking perspective. So rather than looking at historical emissions, metrics built in to actually look at how a company potentially kind of fare out, in terms of kind of performance. So I think these are the things that kind of standalone that investors will look at, but at the same time, it's kind of incorporated into ESG rating.
Okay, great. Follow up to that, since you're on the line, Albert. Do you think that the EU taxonomy regulations and the EU sustainability reporting directive are the antidote to the proliferation of ESG reporting framework? And from that, are these also the beginning of the end for ESG rating service providers?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. So I think with the EU taxonomy and the kind of the sustainability disclosure directive, I think personally, I think it would, even without the kind of directives and kind of the push from EU, there's a lot of work been done around ESG already, from the investor community, from different kind of non-profit organizations. I think, kind of broadly around the world, I think the need to kind of have framework for ESG reporting has been seen from a very long time ago. But I think actually with the kind of EU directive and kind of, taxonomy, it will actually drive harmonization around standards rather than proliferation of even more standards, because I'm sure some of the participants might have already heard from the market that there's just way too many frameworks around the world. So I think what I think with the EU taxonomy is really helping to drive harmonization across standards. And again, I don't think it will be the end of ESG ratings, because as I said before, our methodology is, we use GRI and SASB as a starting point, and then we bring out international frameworks as we see fit and reflects the kind of trends and needs and kind of market demand. So, as new standards being kind of generated and kind of harmonized across different frameworks, then our methodology will then gradually, kind of be updated to reflect the change as well. So that I think the ESG rating will still be kind of encapsulating all these changes in the market in a way that will make investments decisions useful for the kind of community and the investor community. I hope that helps you answer the question. Yeah, perfect. I think a follow up to that, do you think that COP21, COP21, and the focus on carbon reduction is skewing the goal for affordable and clean energy towards more clean than affordable? What role can ESG rating agencies play to help strike a balance between developed and developing economies? Yeah. So I think that again, that's very, very good questions. I think in our 50 good methodology, I'm not sure if it's kind of people familiar with it or not, but in our methodology, we do have kind of the ESG ratings kind of thresholds for, and we actually have two different thresholds for kind of developing markets and developed markets. At the moment, I think for developed markets around 2.9, and then for the developing markets about 3.3. So I think you can obviously see there's a gap in that at the moment, and obviously it relates to kind of the broad discussion around what should be done kind of around ESG, kind of developing markets versus developed markets. It's just because kind of they might be disadvantaged and they probably want to they're still developing. So kind of what room that we can allow for them. So I think what we're doing here in terms of methodology, our goal is to have those to kind of converge, over time, so that we see that there's a need for kind of developing markets to kind of do better as well. So our kind of long-term goal for the methodology is for them to converge, so that kind of everyone is working towards the kind of goals to decarbonize in alignment with the Paris Agreement towards like limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. Yeah, great. That's really ultimately, yeah. It's a very interesting subject here. I think we can go on and on, but unfortunately, time is almost up. And I've already extended a bit, but I think these are next two questions, and you can sum it up quickly. When you talk about convergence, right? That word is down. There's a question regarding, is there any efforts to standardize the ESG assessment standards between organization, or at least between the equity and the fixed income market, in this case FTSE Russell, and maybe probably Mark or even RAM or whatnot? I think because of the discipline that we have in terms of equities and fixed income,
Okay, analysis are done in the same way, but emphasis are given in a different direction. So I open to both of you on this, a short one.
Yeah, should I take it on?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of kind of a convergence of standards, I think I think recently, kind of just within this year or maybe even last year, the IFRS Foundation, which is obviously the globally leading organization for financial reporting standards, they're starting to see the need of convergence, or they call it harmonization of standards. So what they do, they start to work with different organizations, including CDP, TCFD, GRI, and SASB. And these are all the organizations that are, the kind of leading or kind of fundamental frameworks that we incorporate into our methodology. So they work with them to establish, hopefully, a new, they call it a sustainability standards board, to harmonize across the standards and frameworks for different companies. And obviously different frameworks are adopted in different parts of the world. So I think that movement is really just to drive harmonization and convergence of standards on a global level.
I see. Thank you. Over to you, Encik Faizal.
Well, for us, I think the convergence really stems from we focus a lot on the UN SDGs, and if you look at the ASEAN bond standards or the ASEAN social bond standards, they stem from them. And likewise, it goes downwards. The SEEDS SRI frameworks would stem from the ASEAN bond standards, and these would stem from the UN SDG standards. So if to give an example, the harmonization, I think the principles are quite harmonized. If you look at the processes and how it's implemented, these might have different variation. For example, the taxonomies applied by BNM, for example, and then the sustainability reporting applied by Bursa, and then the SEEDS SRI framework. If you look from an issuer's point of view, I have 3 regulators to comply with, but they're all leading to the same principles, right? So if people come to me and say, worried, hey, I have to comply with BNM, I have to comply with Bursa, I have to comply with SC, but they comply with a set of standards, and all. It's not like they're doing 3 different efforts. You're doing one set of efforts, but it would take 3 different set of boxes, right? And it will all stem from, I think, the harmonization. For us, we largely follow UN SDGs because, as I mentioned, UN SDGs is integrated, is dynamic, and it follows recent trends, and it's with the concept of leaving no one behind.
Great. One last question. Sorry, you have anything else to say, Encik Faizal? Sorry, I lost you there just now.
No, if I can give an example, when you said clean and affordable, or is it clean only? So that's why I emphasize the word impact, right? So when we look at a clean energy project, for example, right? But if the clean energy is too expensive, then they would score poor marks on the affordability side, which is another UNSDG aspect, right? So we look at the overall impact, and let's say if the clean energy is not affordable, well, are they making grounds on other parts? Like are they having an impact on the social community? Are they giving jobs to the social community, right? Or are they helping life underwater? I don't know, right? So we measure all these impacts and take all these into consideration, right? So that's the unique feature of our assessment and the UN SDGs. I think is not to tackle an initiative in isolation, right? It has to be looked on in a totality.
All right. Okay. Thank you. To sum it up, I think we have already overrun slightly, but I think this is a very important message that we want to put through. Last question. Given the unprecedented surge of investors' interest in ESG related investment products globally, including Malaysia, right? And obviously, it's here to stay moving forward. I think what we've been hearing from yesterday until now, it's very, very obvious that it's here to stay moving forward. It's just not, this is the new norm. But if that is such the case, would it be logical to expect, I mean, from the equity side, Edward, that the FTSE4Good Bursa Malaysia Index could be the next reference barometer for our local market, as it is for the FTSE KLCI and the FTSE Hijrah Sharia indices, right? And for the fixed income side, Encik Faizal, a standardized ESG reference barometer benchmark for the FI bond and sukuk market locally, other than the BPAM ESG bond index. Can you just summarize on that? Over to, yeah.
Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sorry. Did I just steal the floor? No, so I think, yeah, obviously the 50 figure Bursa Malaysia index has been, I think one of the kind of most kind of, famous I would say very well known index in the Malaysian market in terms of kind of ESG performances, kind of showing what the ESG benchmark is. And I understand, kind of in terms of ESG practice, for kind of local perspective, the significance of Sharia in the Malaysian market landscape.
Yeah.
So it really shapes, and gives, I guess, we'll call it local specificity to the way that kind of ESG has been considered from a standpoint in the local market. So I think this is why we're going to launch a Sharia compliant version of the 50 Bursa Malaysia index. So the constituents of this version will then be drawn from the constituents of the 50 Bursa Malaysia index, deemed Sharia compliant by the Securities Commission. So we really want to have this version of the 50 Good Bursa Malaysia index to recognize the kind of local importance of Sharia and an ethical screening practice in the market. And I think in terms of standardization, I know kind of Bursa Malaysia, they're also looking to develop a standardized approach to ESG disclosure requirements that are based on a combination of, as I mentioned before, GRI, reporting framework and the kind of indicators from our 50 Good methodology. So I think from that standpoint, kind of 50 Good will continue to hopefully become one of the leading kind of indexes in the market to show what ESG is and to kind of give a good indicator to the market.
Great, congratulations, and hopefully we'll move forward then further. Thank you. Yeah, Encik Faizal, please.
Yeah, from a fixed income point of view, I think standardization is not really the big issue now, because if you try to count the number of bonds or sukuk which meets this SEEDS SRI framework, I mean, it's just slightly more than my fingers here. There's probably about 11 or 12 only, right? So standardization is not really the issue, and because SC has always been the focal point for fixed income, people would follow the standard set by SC, and I think SC has done a good job in promoting it. I think it will just take some time for the market to create the demand by itself. I think the market will always ask for what is in it for them in return. Of course, it's a reduction in COF, and hopefully we will see that in time as investors increase their compliance to ESG. I mean, we've been talking to the likes of EPF and Co-op, and they are increasingly applying ESG requirements on their investments. So you will come to a point whereby the motivation to have ESG compliance or impact assessment on your sukuk is not only for profiling, and it's not only for a low pricing, but it's also for a successful subscription of your bonds, right? Imagine if suddenly all asset managers would need ESG investments and you don't comply. So the issuers will be struggling to have a successful issuance to begin with. So I think standardization, as I mentioned, is SEEDS SRI framework, ASEAN Sustainability Bond Standards, and UN SDGs. It's not really the main issue at the moment, but it's there. It is standardized for the bond work in Malaysia.
Okay. Thank you so much, Encik Faizal and Mr. Edward. So much for a very dry subject, right? It's very interesting. With that note, before I end up and pass over to the MC, I have here some food for thought. Yeah. Obviously, I think the conclusion from this is that if you take away the clinical portion about it, the fundamental analysis about it, embracing ESG isn't something new, nor it is caused just by the pandemic. Actually, it's a return to our core values, practices, and tradition. Yeah, it's been with us actually since existence of mankind. It's just that we have neglected it in the pursuit of financial gains at the expense of everything else, including our Mother Earth. With that note, I'll pass it back to the MC, and thank you so much for a very engaging session, Mr. Edward, and also Encik Faizal. Yeah, I wish both of you great success. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
And apologies to the floor management because we've extended our time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edward, Encik Faisal and Encik Sani. That was a very insightful discussion indeed. Let's take a moment to wait for our next speaker to dial in.
Hi, madam.
Good morning. I'm so sorry to everyone for the problems that we were having online. It's one of those Murphy's Law things.
Cik Sani always keep saying that this morning. All right.
I know. I think he jinxed the whole thing.
All right. So, okay, so maybe we can start by sharing your screen and let's see whether you can embed the sound.
Yes. Okay, let me try to do that, all right? Okay.
All right.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Okay.
Hi, Madam Shueu Yann. Sorry for the
Hello. Yes.
issues.
I'm so sorry, Imran, for this. Yeah.
It's okay. And everyone, sorry for that technical issue. We have Ms. Shueu Yann with us, so we can start rejoin our webinar. Sorry. Thank you.
Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Hold on a minute, huh? Okay. I have it on slide view, but okay, right. All right. Firstly, thank you very much, MIDF, for inviting us to speak on a topic which is actually very close to our heart. I mean, as you can see with the name like EcoWorld, the concepts of sustainability have got to be something that mean quite a lot to us. Today, I hope to be sharing with you all a little bit about our approach towards ESG, how we communicate and execute our aspirations on the ground, as well as where we have got to today and how it has benefited us, as well as hopefully benefited the many people that we deal with. Coming down to a bit of background about EcoWorld. We are a relatively young company. I mean, as many people may know, the brand only emerged on the property scene slightly under 8 years ago. But the people behind the brand, Tan Sri Liu, Datuk Chang, Datuk Sri Raju, and all our divisional managers, many have had experiences, I would say, 20 to 30 years in the property sector. So that is, a lot of years that our team have had. And when we had this chance to, restart a company, we were really asking ourselves, what do we want to do? So we set as our mission statement, creating tomorrow and beyond. And by that, we hope to, build properties that will really endure for generations. Okay, coming now to our ESG approach, and how it has informed everything that we do. Right. If you look at the governance structure, this was actually set sometime in 2017, right? The governance structure has the board of directors at the apex, of course, to oversee and approve all of the group's sustainability strategies, our policies, our initiatives. Then under the board of directors is the sustainability committee that comprises our top management from both business and support units. And this is the team that develops and ensures the implementation of the sustainability goals. But how we organize our sustainability committee may be somewhat different from the way that many other people do. We break it down into 3 separate councils, where we have an economic council, a green and operations council, and the social council. This slide will show you, in a bit more detail, who are the members of this council. It is headed by our CEO, Datuk Chang Kinwa, and comprised within the separate councils are all the divisional general managers as well as the executive C-suite of the company. So, collectively, every single, business and support unit is represented on this council, and we are able to have a lot of, conversations on what are the things that we need to do to ensure that the overall framework of the business is sustainable. As you can see, under the Economic Council, it is the members of the Economic Council are our CFO, myself, as well as the divisional GM of our group contracts that awards the contracts. Under the Green and Operations Council, we have not just the support units covering environmental matters as well as service quality, but we also have all the business units that deal with product quality, product innovation, and health and safety matters. Then finally, we have our Social Council, which is headed by our divisional general manager of group talent, as well as the senior manager who looks after EcoWorld Foundation, that does a lot of the social work that we do. The attendance for the Sustainability Committee and all the council meetings have been consistently high, ranging from between 80 to 90% for the meetings, which shows the commitment of the individuals towards the objective we're trying to achieve. Right? This has enabled us, to come up with a very holistic value creation model that is not just propelled by our vision and directed by our missions, as I will share a bit more with you a bit later, but it also, because of the representation on the committee, we are able to balance out the needs, of using our financial, intellectual, human, manufactured, natural, and social and relationship capitals very holistically. Of course, the UN SDGs also guide, our approach towards sustainability, and this has been something that we formalized in 2019, where we recognize the importance of the UN SDGs, as also I think the presenters before that were saying that, you cannot look at anything in isolation. Everything needs to be balanced in total to achieve true sustainability. So on our part, how we began was in 2017, at the same time that we formalized our governance structure, we started off with adopting 6 UN SDGs that we felt we could have the greatest impact on. And then over time, we have been working on improving our performance on this SDGs, as well as the reporting of that performance. And last year, we adopted an additional 2 SDGs, which is climate change, as well as peace, justice, and strong institutions. So all in now, we have got, officially adopting 8 UN SDGs, and we want to continue to improve on our performance there. Right. Coming down to the section where, I would like to share a bit about how we have communicated and executed our ESG aspirations, right? In 2019, by the time we were, operating for some 5 to 6 years already, we had already delivered a big chunk of, the initial projects that we had done. A lot of our big townships had achieved the very first handover, and, we had people that we were welcoming into the vision that we originally had for the various developments. So we thought at that time, it made sense for us to relook again our vision statement, our mission statement, our brand core values, what our brand pillars were, as well as even the brand personality. I'd like to share some of these things with you here. When we relooked at our vision statement, we came up with this communication for our team to say that the brand is really about the pursuit of better and greater ways to complete people's living experience. We want to be thought leaders and innovators, and also a non-traditional business that really has a positive economic, social, and environmental impact. And, in trying to deliver our vision of creating tomorrow and beyond, we really want to push the boundaries of excellence. Right. So at the end of all that, we do better. Right. One of the main part was, the mission statements that we had. We recrafted them and reiterated the strength of the commitment to say that we want to create world-class eco-living by providing products and services that continue to exceed expectations, and to really give the people the kind of lifestyles that we envision that they will have in the townships that we create. The next thing also is we wanted to generate ideas and that will really inspire people and disrupt the status quo. The next thing is teamwork. Teamwork has always been a very strong element of EcoWorld, and the way we go about everything that we do. That is something that we continue to emphasize, and we want to have that experience of borderless teamwork across all the EcoWorld business support units, and even with our associate company, EcoWorld International in the UK and Australia, right? The other thing, of course, is training our people to unleash the best of their potential. The picture that you see there, it's a very interesting picture. It is a performance by our team, in our annual dinner that we used to have, of course, before all these COVID issues struck us. And the energy of the young team in wanting to fight for nothing more than bragging rights, to win a performance against their people is something you have to see to believe. But that energy also is what has powered our team to achieve the results that have been achieved on the ground. And of course, it comes to the next thing. The commitment, and focus and passion to give 100% in everything that we do is a very, a good wrap up to the overall mission statement that we have. Coming now to brand core values, we have quite a few, but I would only like to share two with everyone today. The first core value is sustainability. Now, sustainability is a big word, but the question is, how does one execute it? We were very, very fortunate when we first started that we started off with a blank slate. So for a developer, it all begins with the master plan. Then we envision what kind of infrastructure does that township, the integrated project need in order for people to be able to live their lives, be able to get to and from work easily, and support the overall, environment that we're trying to create. Then we envision the communities we're trying to build. What are the amenities that they will need? And finally, we wrap it all with a focus on the EcoWorld DNA, which is design, nature, and artistic elements embedded into the township that we create. This is one example of what has been created on the ground. This is Eco Ardens. It is the area that we have created to provide the amenities for people. Drilling down a little bit more on the master planning exercise. This is the master plan for Eco Botanic, which is the very first township launched by EcoWorld. As you can see, we actually segregate the residential, commercial, and recreational zones very well in the overall master plan, where we ensure that there is not just safety and security, but people are able to move to and fro the different zones very comfortably. We create bicycle lanes, walkways, and all other things to encourage lower carbon living. As you can see also from the master plan, a very big chunk of the land bank, in Eco Botanic's case, 23%, has been dedicated to the creation of greens, ponds, amenities, and services. So when we create all these elements, it's not just a case of planting grass or planting a few trees. We really try to do it in such a way that elements of the design, nature, and art are embedded into what we have created. These pictures show you what we have done in Eco Grandeur, which is in Puncak Alam, out in Ijo, in the northern part of the Klang Valley, right? We want what we have built to stand the test of times. The built environment must exist in perfect harmony with the natural environment, and the elements of art, craft, and nature will link everything together, so that people, when they go home, they feel that sense of pride, to be able to reach that home through that iconic bridgeway, through the the entrance statements that we've created for everyone, right? Coming down to the individual design of the homes, this is an example of a garden home, which is a product that EcoWorld created to innovate a common terrace home into something that looks and feels and functions like a semi-detached home, right? Apart from prioritizing the north and south elements to ensure good airflow, which then of course will reduce the need for air conditioning, and people use less energy, it also provides good cross ventilation. We also provide very high ceiling heights. Many of our homes actually come with 11, 12 feet ceiling heights, which are higher than normal. So that improves also that ventilation and natural lighting. The other thing is sustainable town landscape planning, where the environment is conserved, we integrate ecology, we provide plenty of recreational potential opportunities for our residents. The designs, show the distinctive nature of a particular township's character and the design language, ample bicycle lanes for low carbon footprint living, as well as plenty of plants and greens and shrubs, as well as water bodies to lower the ambient temperature for a more cooling effect, right? Some of the things that we have done, our landscape team are a very, very passionate bunch of people. They really, look towards creating one micro system at a time to improve the living environment and the overall look and feel of the township. Tree transplanting is a very key element of a corporate charter. To date, we have transplanted more than 3,000 over trees, over our various townships. We also look towards reusing a lot of the construction materials to reduce the amount of stuff that needs to go to landfills. For example, formworks are sometimes, reused to pave the walkways, and that also will conserve the forest trees, because we do not need to cut down more trees or use other materials for the creation of these walkways, right? Then in terms of the shoreline treatment, we look towards erosion control. Some of the rocks that are blasted are used along the shorelines, so that it's again reusing the stuff. We create pollinator gardens to attract the right fauna to come along, as well as the insects, that will help us to pollinate and ensure the sustainability of what is planted. Ecological drains are created, which is a great playground for kids to just go in and play with water when it rains heavily, and as well as edible gardens, because that serves as a very good way to educate the younger generation, and also for the retired people who come, they love to do gardening. That also is created, and it builds community. Going forward, we will be working a lot, more with, various bodies, say FRIM and, other people that we've been working with over the years to try to preserve more rare native plant species within our township. The other thing that our landscape team have got around to doing is that they are studying the ability of different trees to capture carbon dioxide. So we will choose to plant those trees that capture more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So that will also help towards our ambitions to create low carbon footprint cities. Okay. So this is an example of what has been created at Eco Majestic. As you can see, the township is very built up by now. You have not just, the overall water bodies, but, interspersed within each living environment are also plenty of greens and community areas for people to engage with each other, right? This is an example of the open space that's been created at the Urban Park in Eco Spring, which is in Iskandar, Malaysia. It's a wonderful place where people can, young and old, can just, come together and live the kind of lifestyles that we try to offer to them, right? Even within each of the homes, we have changed, the unsightly backlane gardens that used to be, places that people didn't like to go to at all. But, we don't have those sort of back lanes. Instead, it's been transformed into gardens. So kids can just run around and play and enjoy themselves throughout the day. And you can see these are some of the testimonials that are provided by our own residents about how they really love the living environment there, right? Coming down to art, creating artistic sculptures is something that you will see throughout Eco World Townships. But this example is Eco Forest, which is out in Semenyih near the Broga Hills, where you can see, they have created the famous gazebos that we have. In this case, it is in the form of a teepee. We have the entrance walkway, which actually is inspired by trees. Where it is a structure that welcomes people driving into the townships, and of course all the water bodies around the township, that creates parks and places for people to congregate and enjoy, right? On the more specific elements, we do provide solar water heaters for our semi-D range and above. We also, incorporate rainwater harvesting for some of our homes, and EV charging stations are provided within selected sales galleries and commercial precincts to encourage people to use more environmentally friendly vehicles. Right. This is a very interesting innovation that our young team came up with during one of the innovation challenges we set for them. We know as part of development, one of the key things that we find very wasteful is that when we deliver what we think is a beautiful home to our purchasers, the first thing they do is that they hire a renovator and they start to knock down perfectly decent walls, which creates huge amounts of construction waste. So the team came up with this idea to have a design to own concept where we are able to offer options to our customers to customize to a certain degree the kind of home that they want. That will help reduce wastages from construction waste, right? Giving you an example of one home here, where if you look at the picture on the left, it shows the original layout, which is the standard layout. If they like it, they can have this kind of layout. But if the family feels that they want a bigger yard area, because they want to have a bigger open kitchen, right? We can remove one storeroom and we can also cover up a pavilion area into a hobby room so that they have options and they don't have to engage renovators, after we hand over the thing. And that saves a lot in terms of the renovation waste, right? The other thing, of course, that we do is that, we recognize that sustainability is not something that any one person can do. If we hand over something that we think is beautiful, but people don't live a sustainable lifestyle up, or we don't provide means for them to be able to pursue their sustainability aspirations, that also doesn't help. So what we tried to do is that, for all our townships, we are providing recycle bins at every parcel for waste segregation. We set up recycling stations as well in certain areas to encourage people to recycle more than just, the standard, the 3 types of waste segregation. We have textiles and other things. And we have also invested, in the case of one of our projects, a trial run with a food composting large-scale machine to encourage community recycling of food. Right? All these things are things that we have to work together with the neighborhood community, but we find that our people are actually very engaged with this, right? For example, that one of the edible gardens that we have planted are actually, producing a lot of, edible plants, pandan, all the other herbs and stuff where, once it's ready, we will actually harvest it. Then we will send it out by WhatsApp blast to encourage the residents to just come and collect. Right, it just disappears very fast. So at the clubhouse, every time we send out one of these blasts. The other thing, of course, is using digital apps and all that to communicate and to knit the community together. That's one of the advantages that we all have these days. That the neighborhood app that we give people can also be used as a wonderful platform for us to be able to communicate with our residents, and particularly in this COVID environment, right? It's been very helpful to be able to share immediate messages with them, to inform them of the latest things and to just basically keep the community together at a time, where people are, necessarily somewhat isolated. Okay. Coming down to the next core value that I would like to share is inclusion. I mean, I know, this is something that people say a lot, but it's quite interesting if you look at some of the statistics for EcoWorld. We are very much an equal opportunity and diverse employer. 74% of our employees are below the age of 40. We have a very good balance of male to female employees. And actually, if you take out a big chunk of our police bantuan, the balance is probably closer to 50-50. Interestingly, for a property company, 47% of our senior management are women, and we have 25% women on our board of directors. So that is actually, something that we are very happy we've managed to achieve. And because we have such a young, team, we have also been able to expand our customer profile from where we were when we started, where we had a bigger chunk of people aged 40 years and above, 53%, to today where 70% of our customers are below 40 years old. For a township developer, that is very, very important, because as our customers grow with us, then that also means we have a natural catchment that will buy homes from us for several generations, to come in the future. The other thing that, we are pleased to, share is that when we first started, our customer base was perhaps less ethnically balanced. But today, we have a very ethnically balanced customer base, which is wonderful because that is what Malaysia is all about. And that is the kind of environment we want to build, right? On the social front, we are very active. This has been, in fact, the very core of where EcoWorld, when we first started, we have always wanted to create a positive impact on the community. And the first thing that we started when we became a brand was we started the EcoWorld Foundation that today still has over 2,000 students that we support through their primary, secondary, and even tertiary schooling. Despite the fact that we've not been able to engage a lot with the kids that we support because of the SOPs that we have to observe these days, we have been supporting their families through special needs for those who require our help throughout the season as well. Okay, coming down to our ESG progress today. We still have a long way to go. We acknowledge that we are nowhere near perfect, or we have not arrived in any shape or form. But we are very grateful that what we have done to date has been recognized by various bodies. We were included in FTSE4Good in December of 2020. The EDGE Malaysia, awarded us their Responsible Developer Award for building sustainable developments in April this year. And we were also accepted as a participant in the UN Global Compact, and we are working very closely with the Malaysian chapter to see how we can improve further in our sustainability journey, right? On the sales front, we are very grateful that the ESG efforts that we have made in terms of creating environments that people really want to live in has been rewarded, as you can see from the sales here. Last year, of course, when COVID hit, everyone was affected in the second quarter. Our sales were really low. But what we were really, really pleased to know is that from the third quarter, in fact, all the way up to the second quarter, our sales have come back extremely strongly. This, we believe, is because, especially during the pandemic, people feel very much that the living environment that they're living in, it's very, very important. They must have a place where they can work. They must have a place where their kids can study. The home is now no longer just, a place to come home to go to sleep, but it has to function as an office, recreational area, and so many things. So more and more people are appreciating not just the homes that we create, but the living environment within our townships. And we believe that has contributed a lot towards the sales momentum that we have enjoyed, post the first MCO, right? So coming down to a wrap up perhaps on how ESG has helped us, we believe that the focus on environmental, social, as well as the government aspects of the business, and the way we have tried to balance our responsibilities on this front has enabled us to create more people-centric offerings, right? And it has also enabled us to build very wholesome and sustainable communities that will, in the end, hopefully help us to leave that enduring impact and legacy that we want to create for all the residents that we have, as well as for the nation as a whole, right? So coming down to my final slide, which is a very interesting journey on how ESG has actually been embedded within our business model through the development of our largest township, which includes a very interesting project called Laman Haris, which is a little mini precinct that we created for the original settlers of these lands that had waited close to 20 years to get their homes when we revived a previously abandoned project out in Puja Alam, to our journey of creating Eco Grandeur, which is today a lovely township where we have handed over the first homes, the first commercial precincts, as well as Eco Business Park 5, which is our industrial precinct right next to the residential and commercial precinct. Have a look at this video, and that will end off my presentation. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Madam Shueu Yann.
Stop share now, huh? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, please. Thank you. Okay, that was very interesting, actually. Very nice development. And besides your congratulations to you and Equal, and besides the beautiful houses that I see there, one thing that I think got me a bit nostalgic was your launches, where we see a lot of people huddling around. Hopefully we can get back to those type of days where we can actually meet up again and everything like that.
Yeah,
but definitely impressive. We have a few questions from the viewers. Maybe I'll run through a few. Okay, we have a question here. Very impressive example of how to incorporate sustainability into the business model. What are the top 3 enablers that have contributed to your success in this journey?
I think, that it really starts with the top, and I think that's where the leadership, from Tan Sri Liu, Datuk Chang and all that makes the big difference. Because in creating the name, in setting the vision, in desiring to make a positive impact on society, once that informs your mission, I suppose, and vision as a company, everything sort of flows down from there, So I think that has been very key. I think the structure that we have adopted, which is somewhat unconventional, I know, has also helped. But I appreciate that, this is because we are a young old company, we like to say. We are very young in age, but the people behind it are pretty experienced. So you have already made your mistakes before, and you kind of know how to, configure the thing together. Plus, the team has worked together for very many years. So, so being able to gel together and, form that kind of a structure, that helps a lot, right? Yeah, so I think those will be some of the keys. Then the other thing, of course, is the increasing awareness that people have. I think when we talk about sustainability, right, it's very important to realize that the cost burden, that there is definitely a cost burden to sustainability. But we must ensure that the cost burden doesn't fall on businesses alone, because if that happens, the whole thing will fall apart. I mean, I was listening on to the earlier panel discussion. Memang all businesses are there for profit. That has to be, because you've got shareholders. You have to ensure that you are able to discharge your responsibilities to every stakeholder, right? So you cannot just spend money when there is no return. But as the society becomes more conscious about it, we saw during the COVID pandemic, last time maybe people appreciate the living environment, but when you go home only at 10 o'clock, the garden cantik also tak apa, you don't feel it, right? But when you're stuck at home all the time, now it really matters, right? So we actually, funnily enough, we saw some of our bigger and more expensive houses really, really fly after the first MCO, no? I need a big home.
Yeah, understand, yeah. Due to the realities of working from home and the like, and most likely because people foresee this to be quite extended. At least, if not, there'll be some restriction as well. Okay, thank you very much for that. Next question. You touch upon cost burden of cost there. So maybe if I can just add this question along with another one. So that's basically two parts to the question. How do you see adoption of ESG helps in building good reputation of a property company? And the second question is there a premium to pricing if a property developer adopt ESG in their property development?
Okay. I think the first one is, how does it help? I think we have to realize that it's not just a property company. Every company, every corporation, especially with the younger generation, you have to earn your right to exist. And if you are viewed as a company that does not make a net positive impact to the business, society, or environment that you're in, the digital world is a very unkind world. Do anything wrong, social media will whack you blue and black before long. So I think this is something that all businesses have to realize, that we need to, responsible corporate citizenship is not just about giving a check and, taking a nice picture and hopefully someone covers it. It really has to inform what you do as an organization. In terms of whether there is a premium attached, yes, to a degree, but also people are cost conscious. So I think we have to be very careful what money you spend. And that is where, maybe our little structure where we have the Economic Council also as part of the Sustainability Committee. In practical language, it means those of us accountants who are a bit more kiam siap and will count the money and will say, hello, you spending this money, where my return? It balances out the situation, right? So you need to do it because for a property company, what's the key thing now? People want homes to be affordable. And of course, affordable is different for every home and every budget. But we find that people are willing, provided they can afford it, to pay that little bit more if it means it will enhance their lifestyle. It will, where they are confident that because of what has been done, because of the community that has been built, the long-term value of their properties will appreciate. Right. So yes, definitely, I think there is. But you cannot say that you just want to charge anything. No. In this market, everyone is looking how to save money. So we have to be conscious that our prices must be attainable by every market segment we are going for.
That's brilliant because as you said, people want it to be affordable. But of course, I think there are other intrinsic factors that when people buy a home as well, it's not just 100% due to cost. They want a nice neighborhood, they want a nice gardens, for example. So I think you're right in that sense. We go to another question. What do you think the authority or government can do to promote adoption of ESG by property companies?
Possibly not property companies alone. I think throughout, because I really believe that ESG has to be a complete ecosystem. It has to be something that is not just the company, the buyers must want it, the general community, the regulators, everything. I think in terms of regulation, honestly, the regulators are doing a very, very good job already. I mean, SC Bursa, they have definitely been pushing this for years. The FTSE 4Good started in 2014, right? So that's a long time. Bank Negara has also been pushing it, and I think recently they came up with recent climate change, principles and taxonomy for the banks to observe. So everyone must play their role. I think the only thing that we would say is that sometimes in playing that role, right, again, balance out the cost burden on businesses. Because one of the things that we know that, of course, people want to see is a lot of people verifying, certifying, and all the rest of it, of these other costs, because everyone needs to have reliance that person's sustainability efforts are truly sustainable. And although that is important, I think we have to take gradual steps towards these certification processes. Because if we try to go too fast and the cost burden becomes too expensive for companies, in this post-COVID kind of environment, companies actually need to struggle to survive. The most important thing is ensure the company's survival so the jobs are not lost and all the rest of it. So I think, a measured approach of maybe more encouragement, helping getting people more on the bandwagon, definitely more education. Because the key is that people must be willing to pay for sustainability. When customers are willing to pay, businesses will flourish. When businesses flourish, more and more people can enter the space. Then automatically it becomes sustainable. It's like a branding thing. Why does a woman pay for a Dior handbag versus a locally made product? In terms of actual price point, what's the difference? Why does a man pay for a Mercedes versus a Proton? Okay, maybe you can say that's certain, but the price differential, I don't really think so. But it's the perception of value. So as the community values sustainability, then businesses can thrive and survive. So where the authorities can do is cut businesses some slack, give people time to get onto the ladder, encourage the good performers, but don't put overly burdensome, you know, requirements upon people who are starting out, because that will just say, okay, this is just too much. I don't want to, right? So I think that's that balance that needs to be achieved.
That's very interesting. So basically, just maybe from my understanding, basically it's a shared responsibility. It's not just the government, it's not just the business, it's also the people and the like. And I like what you said about taking gradual steps. I think that was one of the key themes as well yesterday of ESG adoption in Malaysia. We cannot go from zero to hero in short sprints of time. We need some gradual adoption, some time to adopt that. I have another question here. Maybe I can again put them together. How much of EcoWorld's landscaping is built around the original local natural habitat? What are the challenges to maintain this, and how EcoWorld approach this, successes and impact? And the second question is, to be more green, has there been a change with regards to the material used in construction?
Okay, I think I'll take the first question first in terms of built around the natural habitat. I think, you know, to be honest, when you're building a large township of several thousand acres, it's very difficult to do your master planning and try to go and preserve that one thing in the middle, you know. But definitely the overall environment, what we do is that we do look to, okay, to start off first, we don't build in biosensitive areas. You know, we don't build in environmentally sensitive areas. Most of the things that we do are explantations, you know, all those sort of things, and therefore, you know, they are lands that we feel comfortable that we can clear, right? Then we also do try in areas where we see you know, good trees that can be preserved. The first thing that we do is we actually tag the trees and then we transplant them. To date, you know, as I mentioned during my presentation, I think we've done 3,170 trees or so already that we've already transplanted over the years, you know, from the various places. So that helps. Then, of course, there is the issue of the amount of land that you allocate for green. That one, from a master planning standpoint, you follow largely the authorities' guidelines, because we are also a business. We cannot give a disproportionate amount of land away. But what we build onto the land, you can, the thought process of our landscaping team is very important. You can just put cow grass and a few, you know, skinny trees and be done with it. Or you can really take the kind of trouble that they do to study what types of trees maybe will help with greater carbon capture. You know, what are some of the native tree species that we want to hope to you know, to propagate a bit more? What are the kind of plants that will attract the bees, the birds, the butterflies, and all that to create, you know, an active flora and fauna ecosystem within the environment? So it is, it's just a little bit of detail and thought. Then finally, when it comes to, you know, how you clear the land, to whatever degree that's possible, you try to build according to the contours of the land. So that also helps, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that was the first question. Sorry, it was the second.
Yeah, and the second question is, to be more green, has there been changes with the regards to material use in construction?
You know, to some extent, yes. And I think definitely, I'll give you one example. I think in the past, right, you know, the builders used to use a lot of wooden formwork. You know? So now, actually, what we tend to do is that we use steel or aluminum formwork. I think it's aluminum formwork. Sorry, I'm just getting into areas that I am not so good in. But I believe in aluminum formwork because one, it you know, saves the number of trees that you want to cut down, and also it is how shall I say, it is reusable, right? So one key thing about, you know, construction waste also is you want to try to reduce the amount of things that, you know, have to end up in a landfill. So that helps. In terms of actual you know, building materials, I have to admit I'm wandering into territory I'm not that familiar with, but I think, you know, the low what VOC paints and all that is becoming more and more common. But that has to go along with the industry. You know, this is not something that any one developer can help on our own, because we have to see that certain things, although it may sound very nice, it may not be that acceptable. I'll give you an example. I think last time we were talking about something that, you know, you want to reduce water usage and you want to have fun, you know, in order to get, like, sometimes like the I can't remember, they were exploring this idea about low the taps, you know, that spray out very little water. Right? Your buyers don't like that sort of thing. You know, you open the tap, it's like this pathetic little trail of water come out. You look at it, they get angry. Immediately they take the house from you, they get the renovator in, they replace every single bit of the tap. So you end up creating waste because you're putting in a product that is not accepted by the customer yet. Right? So those things will have to go very gradually.
Exactly.
You know, the customer acceptance must be there. The price must be sensible because we have to watch, you know, our pricing and profit margins, and slowly over time. But definitely over time, more and more people are becoming more environmentally aware. Other businesses are becoming more environmentally aware, and therefore they are able to offer materials that make more sense.
Interesting.
You know,
okay. Maybe just 2 more questions, last questions. I'll read out together again. Does EcoWorld measure the water, energy use, and waste and carbon generated during construction? Is there a target, maybe a specific carbon limit for future developments? That's one question. And the other question I'd like to ask is that do you foresee that ESG will be a main feature in property development, the sector or the industry as a whole going forward, or will this continue to be an added feature, meaning that it's showcase for developers or a selling point for developers rather than a main feature of a property development?
Okay, on the first thing, in terms of measurement, we are not measuring in a very a lot yet, primarily because we haven't worked out how to meaningfully measure the biggest chunk of our businesses, you know, and so that's something that we are still trying to work out, because we can measure our own usage at our sales galleries and our offices, and we are starting that, but that alone is very small. So we are just trying to find our way towards how to achieve a more meaningful measure, following which we can set targets. So that for us is a work in progress still, right? You know, the other thing about whether it will be an add-on feature, I don't think it can be an add-on feature for any business, but interestingly for property companies specifically, right? I mean, if you think about property, for most people, that is the single most expensive item they will ever buy.
Yeah.
And for many people, they will only ever buy one property in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So, you know, in a way that focus that we had when in 2019 when we did, you know, a brand review actually, and it's not a resetting of the our mission is still the same, our vision is still the same, but for us to have a more key reset, we had a tagline that we put in, you know, to focus our own minds, which is building for generations. You know, we have to look at that. How do you create not just a home, but try to create the right kind of the community, and you nurture the environment so that it lasts and thrives for generations. Because if you get your building blocks right, you get the right people in, you nurture in the right kind of behavior, people create value. People can also destroy value. You know, you create a slum, you will destroy value. But if you get the right people into the environment, I truly, truly believe people will create value. And we have seen that in good townships. There are, you know, many, you know, in the country, and you see what distinguishes one old township from another is fundamentally the value that is created not just by the developer, but later on by the people living in those areas. So I don't think for property development it can be an add-on. It needs to be a core element of responsible development.
All right, I think that's it for now. Madam Shueu Yann, thank you very much for giving the presentation. Fantastic. Congratulations to EcoWorld in terms of your performance, and also in terms of putting this ESG into your core development ideas and how you go about in terms of your development. I think a lot more, we should have a lot more this type of properties with the green lungs and everything like that. Truly appreciate that and truly appreciate your presentation and taking in questions. Thank you very much. Hope for you to stay safe. And I apologize again for the technical issues just now to you and your viewers as well. Our viewers. Thank you very much, Ms. Shueu Yann.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. We are moving on to the next segment, which is ESG and you. We're still waiting a little bit for Mr. Razak to join in. Hopefully there's no problem again that we will be facing. But just to give a brief background, well, Encik Abdul Razak is a chief seeder at SEEDS Malaysia. So SEEDS Malaysia is an NGO, which voluntarism is one part of its core there. But another is also teaching and educating people on environmental issues, especially on how people can contribute to that issues. For example, planting more trees, the education on planting more trees, having green lungs and the like, and also things like farm to table and the like. Just hold on. He said he's already in. So give me if you give us a moment.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, hello, Encik Razak.
Yes, Assalamualaikum. Hi.
Waalaikumsalam. Sorry again, viewers. What you see here today is an example of Murphy's Law, and you can see it a lot in action today. When we tested this out, everything was perfect, but as you know, Murphy's Law, as we said. So
yeah, on my end.
Okay, so as I said, we have here Razak, Chief Seeder of SEEDS Malaysia, which is an NGO. He'll share more about his NGO. Encik Razak will dive deeper into how we as individuals can contribute to the ESG agenda. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Encik Razak.
Thank you, Imran, and a good day to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and salam sejahtera. Again, our apologies for the technical glitch. Somehow or another, this life size doesn't want to accept me as an NGO. It is accepting me as a farmer. So here I am talking to you, coming from as a farmer. So let me just share the screen and screen share so that we just jump into it. Share. Share. Are you all able to see my SEEDS logo?
Yes, clearly.
Anyone? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. So first and foremost, thank you very much for the organizing committee, mainly from MIDF, Amanah and MIDF Research, and the whole entire team for inviting me today to share a little bit on what we've been doing and what other people in the same fraternity are doing. It is truly an honor to be with distinguished guests from Datuk yesterday to Kumar and Ramesh and even EcoWorld today. It's really mind-boggling to see the things that you guys are doing up there in your own respective of the financial and the corporate world, but allow me to be just a layman and coming from me, my wife being designers. We turned ourselves into a farmer, into farming industry about 17 years ago, and today we are happy with what we're doing, empowering young ones to take the next bold step into making sure that at least we do something to this earth in that context. Yeah. So thank you very much, and just a little bit of history on who we are and what we do. We are basically designers, and we saw many things that we could do when we question ourselves as a designer. what must we do in order to be at least addressing some of the problems of the world in relations to environmental issues. So from the early age of coming out from campus and university, we were already doing things pertaining to sustainable practices. And we ran our own small outfit in creative industry, mainly the publishing and creative of creating good spaces. But we saw many other opportunities that dwells into the real aspects of environmental issues. And fast forward 17 years ago, we decided to get into farming out of a sheer desire to be more into the natural world, so to speak, with natural conditions and natural environment, and that drives us to see more opportunities that one can do. So we hope that our little sharing here today, we've got lots of slides to share with you, so I'll just jump into it and fast forward. But just to give a context of what we're sharing, it encompasses a lot of things that we are passionate about, and the people who we get in touch with and we do things with and we collaborate with are the ones that drives this whole idea about being together in making sure that at least we have a part in doing things from the ground up. So SEEDS Malaysia is really about social eco-enterprise development, and anything to do with sustainable, we are there. And we are not there just us, you know. And this little slide, just one page, which I really enjoy sharing, is something that tantamounts to what Mr. Ramesh said yesterday. It's always not enough airtime given to celebrate the people behind doing things. And this is just a small, you know, in this page 20 over brands and logos, just a tip of the iceberg, so to speak, of people who are doing a lot of things, and they're creating a lot of avenues for us to be part of. And when, you know, moving backwards, 35, 40 years ago when we started, there was only a few organizations, namely Greenpeace, Malaysian Nature Society, and if I can remember correctly, Mountain Association of Malaysia. And fast forward today again, we've got loads, tons and tons of organizations that are actually doing a lot of things. So we hope that you know, more people embrace the idea of yes, go ahead and do what you need to do as a person, as a you know, as a human being to make a living in your own respective industry, but there must be a conscious effort to be part of environment. And I like to cite again, you know, it's not a add-on. It's like even Madam Wong mentioned this. It's not an add-on. It is really about being embedded in your own natural sense, you know. And sustainable practice is an attitude. It's not something that you can do now and you can do later, or you need to have money in order to do something bigger. No, it is something which you have to do. And allow me to just cite a few things, and some of them here I will share later towards the end. Obviously, this slide tantamounts to the current association of practitioners, mainly the farmers, like Farm to Fork. Making use of technology in aquaponics and producing community-driven projects. Follow Farm, going back to nature, how transforming regenerative degraded land with just merely composting from natural waste. If you look at Kebun Kota in Kuantan, tremendous amount of result. You know, we always ask ourselves, how can we not be noticed by the financial industry? Have a look at Kebun Kota. 18 tons of produce in 3 months. You know, I'm not kidding. Check with them. Yeah, and if you don't want to go far, in Kebun Bangsa, you know, amazing work by people who just want to do something that contribute back to the society. And there are lots of it. You know, I mean, house camp in Kelantan. Then you jump into other industries, for the matter. So we are not alone. We are just people on the ground doing our own thing, and we enjoy doing it. And one thing that I noticed over the years of working and collaborating with these people, something that strikes a chord with us, you know, is typically doing what we love, and I love this concept of Ikigai. For those who are not aware, check it out, because this is something which we are passionate about, and we see our passion turning into this mission. And this mission typically goes with what the world needs, or at least what another community needs, and that forces us to be good at what we are. Like how I started. We're never farmers. We're just two individuals who are passionate about creative. But when our late father wanted to do farming, we forced ourselves literally to be good at what we want to do. So in the end, it became a profession. And when we overlap that profession and vocation, voila, we get something which we call getting paid for what we do. So this is where we started 17 years ago with a permaculture farm in Karak, and we started with goat farming. We don't know nuts about goats, we don't know nuts about planting grass and whatnot. We failed miserably in planting grass, but eventually we learned to respect nature, and these are some of the practices that we force ourselves into it, by looking at how nature provides us in terms of water, rain harvesting, the sun, the systems thinking behind running a farm, and nature provides us with all this information and learning, and eventually we saw we are practicing many aspects of environmental theories that is being done for thousands of years. So we like what we put ourselves into, and I would say we were forced into it because we were off the grid. We have to work with nature. We saw alternative energy as the only way to get electricity, because the other things don't work in our farm. There's a little stream, but not enough to produce electricity. Rainwater harvesting is key because we need to collect water, even though we have a pond about 300 feet lower down the farm. But we use solar energy to pump up the water, and we work with nature. And this is actually on top of what we do. Good animal husbandry practices is our core business. We import live animals, high quality animals from Australia, and we breed them for our local context because we are short of these so-called gene banks that we needed in the small ruminant industry. So I don't want to bore you with the details, but this is where we actually embark ourselves in. But one thing I want to share with you, when we first started 17 years ago, no bankers wanted to listen to us. No bankers wanted to even look seriously into what this guy's trying to do with something which they have not had any experience in. So we were forced to do it ourselves with our own capacity, with our own funding. Whatever we made out of creative world, we pumped it back into our business. And and proud to say, with good intentions, it forces us to be creative. It forces us to be respecting nature at the same time and do our own business. And people say in the industry those days it'll take about 7 years to get our ROI. Alhamdulillah, we got it just short of 4 years, 4+ years. So that's something which we force ourselves to do, and eventually we saw creating other programs, outreach programs for students to learn about ecosystems. In this context, with architecture students of UTM, what do they do with assignments that forces them to think about creating habitats? Then eventually, when we saw many things that we could do and many things that other people are doing, we created our first sharing, which is a conference in 2014. That's also the year that we decided to brand our movement, which is SEEDS Malaysia. We really wanted it to just be a movement and NGO, so to speak, to empower others to do what they want to do. But eventually we registered it as a social enterprise. So we typically do follow-up projects, when we share our mission. Like in this context, we share this follow-up project with mushroom waste that is available in a farm just off us, and we do composting. Then we got into community gardens, creating community gardens where we live in USJ 6. And today, Alhamdulillah, we're still going strong in USJ 6/7, 2-time state and national award. And if you were to go to that little garden hours, just ask anyone, what's the secret behind sustaining neighborhood garden of sort, you know, because many people have tried and it's just a fad. For us, it's not a fad. Because we're able to create the needs for communities in this Pusat Latihan Kemas. They wanted it after they saw what we were doing and what we shared in our conference. They say, okay, can we have an edible yard in our waste degraded land by the side of the kitchen? And we created this with them designing it over the weekend, and then we move on to corporate world. Corporate, okay. When we started this many years ago in IGEM, and that little book of Green Frontier that we created 10 years ago, 2010, yeah. We researched what we wanted to know about sustainable practices in Malaysia, and out of the 8 industries that came back with some form of reports, sad to say, at that point, the financial industry did not have anything for us to report. But Alhamdulillah, today we're with you. We're with the financial gurus here, so and people who are moving, the movers, so to speak, in financial ways. Already we see many answers being put forth. Just jumping into urban spaces, yeah? Why can't we grow food in tarmac spaces, you know, with basic raised beds or even aquaponic for that matter? Then if we are able to do that, why can't we share same things with the communities that it is in need? In this context, CSR program for the Rohingya refugees, where we just teach them English by just communicating with them in English. So every time we do something, it's always together with other communities that's in need. Why can't we turn our office into a different office? You know, we've been blessed that we did not have to wait for COVID those years, that we work from home, and we've got a long track record of working from home, or at least near home. We rented a space in USJ 6, and that's where we were running our business for a good 5 years. But we planted edible stuff as a form of landscape. So again, this is another avenue that we did, and we learned from others, especially from friends in the architectural agencies and GBIs, and we retrofitted our home with solar energy, alternative energy, food producing features, cooling systems, cross ventilation, and all sorts of things that we can actually do. And I'm quite sure, you know, in Eco World, these are the features that they already have in their context. Yeah. One thing which I'm happy and proud to share is this simple exercise of trying to convert fish pond into a bio fish pond. We've been rearing Kelak pond for the last 8.5 years. This pond that you see that I'm sharing, I only managed to clean it, or rather, we only cleaned it only once in the last 8 years. And it's a self-sustaining system where we use nature, rainwater, and so on and so forth. And it goes into its own ecosystem-based filter system with plants and enzymes. So we don't have to clean our fish pond at all for the last 8 years. And we're still enjoying kelak for that matter, and good quality kelak, because we only feed them with food that we can't eat. Yeah. So moving ahead, permaculture design course, we turn now into a full-fledged training center in Klang. That picture that you see of our recycle office that we use as a form of teaching is now the center where we invite people from all walks of life, whether it's corporate, whether it's students. There you have pictures of our friends from Eco World. Mr. Pan and his team came about with his gang to understand a little bit further how we do things in our own little space, including our goat farm in Kara. We have university students and university professors, and that 3 gentlemen you see, or 2 gentlemen beside me. The one on my right, he is Sam Bauber, the president of Social Enterprise Worldwide, with Ramis Ken, operating from Dover in UK on permaculture. So we get together and teach people on what we see able to do, and we got in converting such as farm waste into compost. Why? Because this land is technically degraded, and when we apply the principles of permaculture, like producing our own compost from garden waste or kitchen waste or whatever waste, in the center, when we have full-blown programs running back to back, easily we do as much as 8 or 10 zero waste measures of composting, whether it's hot compost, whether it's cold compost, or any other form of circular economy that goes back into space of sort, including black soldier flies and etc. Why? Because we're able to turn everything back into our own food. And that picture on the left is the result of 4 years of pumping back into a regenerated approach into land. Today, we are happy to share the food forests that we created in our little space are able to produce food. And I would like to take the opportunity to, for those who don't understand food forests, why we're creating a food forest. It's basically using nature and mimicking the full ecosystem of nature in producing food for us. And we don't, after the first cycle, we don't really have to manage like conventional farms. And food forests can last for a long time. 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, we saw a feature that says 150-year-old food forest has been discovered somewhere in America, and is still sustaining until today. So going back into design, we are just designers. We are still passionate about design. Why can't designers take the role of creating a little bit more creative in application of your own scope? And we invite everybody, not only designers, to use both sides of the brain, because that's what we have to do. Using both sides of the brain to equate some of the things that we are already doing, regardless whether you're a lawyer, a financial advisor, and apply it. In this context, we do events a lot. And why can't our deco be edible stuff from our gardens or farmers association, and eventually you take home and eat the deco? Exhibition industry is one of the culprits. One of the culprits of waste, really waste. Because obviously the issue is we have to be looking good in every time we do. But why can't we design a little bit more and be sustainable in our own context? That boxes that you see sharing Malaysians green stories is for an exhibition in Bahrain. We only bring stickers and digital files, and the rest is carton boxes that we give it away to the other exhibitors so that they can pack and take home and cut away their stuff. This is the book that we did 10 years ago. We are still asking some of these questions, obviously. We are slow in some manners, but it pushes us to, as a designer, why can't we think further? What else can we do? Can our paper be from paper which is not from pulp? In this context, it is paper made from stone, limestone for that matter. Yes, check it out, limestone. So we don't have to do other things to that. Okay, this is something which I want to share. Maybe I can rush through it very quickly. Friends of ours wants to celebrate 25th anniversary of their business, and they've been green all the while, and we went full blown. Why can't we print using eco-publishing methods, including auditing ourselves, SIRIM audit, this whole entire project, and slap us with a ticket that says, okay, you've damaged the world by X kilogram of carbon footprint, you have to plant 67 trees. In the end, the client and us planted 202 trees in Millennium Park, Kuala Lumpur. And that's a way for us to say we can actually go towards zero, net zero carbon footprint. And why I say that trees is very it's a thing where we are extremely passionate about. Planting trees has always been something which we do. This is our biggest project in planting 2,200 trees of indigenous species in Muara Tebas. But today we enjoy collaborating with many organizations. Some are really serious people in this context. PLCLC, who is pursuing the bold mission of supporting the government's 100 million trees, and all we do is now look for seeds that we can plant, and we move on to why can we address the same thing, get creative with peatland issues, and are we able to create other uses of peatland and reduce the haze that's happening every year. Why can't it be land that we can actually do farming? We work with other organizations creating natural farming in communities, whether it's Orang Asli, whether it's Kampung. In this context, is with Bursa Saham Malaysia, the yayasan, and they were kind enough to test our pilot projects in 2 communities, one in Orang Asli. This is in Muazzam Shah. They came to our farm and they said they really want to understand what permaculture is. We have been permaculture natural farming all our while, and it's just a matter of tweaking and turning, and and they're doing wonders now. Before I forget, salute to our friends in Bursa Malaysia for starting another simple but yet effective way of reducing food waste. Understand that we have enough food, but we are not managing ourselves. So this is small, but gearing towards a bigger picture. Excuse me. Other initiatives: Skin Starfish Foundation Project for Happiness. For the past 6 years, 141 projects with 40 universities local, that's producing leaders, that's creating an opportunity for them to take it into a better stewardship of the environment. The young ones are really, really good because they see what we have damaged, our generation, and these are the ones that we need to empower. And I like to end off with a few quoting a few stuff that some of the other panels of speakers have said. Focus on education, focus on the young ones. They are the ones that we need to invest. I'm not a financial person. I've never been good in trying to figure out what it means in terms of getting back to ROI, but I see we need to come together. We need to work together, and understand where we are on the ground. As much as we need to understand how you need to address your KPIs in assessing us and whatnot. We've gone through many aspects that we need to work together. So with that, I welcome this discussion. I welcome further discussion to this. I invite those who are there in the corporate world to look at us on the ground, and I also invite those on the ground who are doing things on our own in our own spaces to understand what it takes to take to the next level. So thank you very much for allowing me to share. I guess back to y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Encik Azlan. Okay, we'll now go through a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead, Amelia. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so the first question: ESG has been adopted by firms worldwide for nearly 2 decades, and some of the firms are benefiting from it, yet environmental damage and social inequality are still growing, such as the ever-increasing CO2 emissions, wealth gap, etc. What are your comments on this issue?
Oh, that's a big, bold question. Yeah. I always worry about answering this, Amelia, from a couple of reasons. But maybe I put it forth in this manner. I would love to challenge myself and the people listening to this. Are we doing the right things? Are we doing the things in terms of making a business works for the environment? And I really like to pull ourselves to what capitalism has done to us. It has pushed us to a corner, and it only takes a pandemic like this to suddenly people come back. Wow, are we facing this and that and whatnot? But it has been happening all this time. And I like to quote our one of the most significant guy that has been pushing for this. Muhammad Yunus, the award-winning, Nobel Prize. And this book, The World of Three Zeros, he addresses the fundamentals in a simple manner. And allow me to quote, his vision of a new form of capitalism, launching innovative social business designed to serve human needs rather than to accumulate wealth. So back to your question and the question that posed to us. Yes, we've been doing things where the things that we need to do, but let's ask ourselves this question. With whatever we're trying to do, is it doing enough? And if it's not, and if your answer is not, then let's just jump into it and just do it. There's no time to question anymore. Who's doing what and whatnot. Just do it, and we see the results coming to us. That will be my answer. Thanks, Amalia.
Yeah, I think that was a great response, Razak.
Thank you.
We have the next question. Do you think there should be more collaboration between NGOs, corporates, and government? And I'll tie in another question with this one. How can we go about this in your opinion? Who should approach who?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. The second question I'll ask again. The answer is obviously yes. But again, let's challenge ourselves. Why must why must we look at it from a separate entity platform? Yes, it used to be NGOs, corporate world, and then we go to corporate and ask for money and blah blah blah. And we get grants or we get funding. Why can't it be on the same level? If we are as one, why can't then, as an example, why can't the corporate have their own NGOs, their own initiative, whatever they're passionate about, they can actually do it, but they have to draw the line. I always worry when we say, go back to like even Madam Wong's indication to answer to the accountants. Yes, I understand we need to be accountable for those, but we still need to address the fundamental issue, environmental. Okay, so if organizations were to have their own, I think a lot more grounds will be done and more achieved in a bolder manner rather than to see it separately. A lot of us on the ground, NGOs, social enterprises, and people who are just helping other people, they don't have money. They don't have the capability to understand how to make a lot of money in order to suppress it. But didn't our religion teach us whatever we have, we still have to do something for others? Whether it's in the form of zakat, whether it's just lifting off some thing on the ground to make ease for someone to go to a space. So that alone has to be embraced. It cannot be separate. That will be my answer for the first question. What was the second question again, Amalia?
I think you've pretty much covered it already. The next question is, how can we go about this in your opinion? Who should approach who? But yeah, I actually agree with you on that.
Okay.
We should view ourselves as a community. And then shall we go through 2 more questions before we wrap up?
Okay.
Okay, the next one. What do you think is the challenge of ESG awareness? Is it education, promotion, or understanding its relationship with financials for corporates?
Okay, another good question. I still go back to that connotation, because we see things as isolation, we see things as separate, we see environment as environment, we see making money as making money, we see things as separate. I always joke about this. My wife and I, we've been blessed with working together almost all our entire career life. Some people see I can't work with my wife, but I don't understand that. Why must it be separate? Why can't it be together? Why can't I work from home? We've been working from home since the late 80s, so to speak. So why must it take a pandemic like COVID to force ourselves to rethink? So if we are able to then understand it, and use other things that are teaching us, for example, Datuk Sri Zaini Ujang's great book, 40 Hadith, or Pelastrian, it underlines the fundamentals of things that we need to understand. Once we understand, then it becomes simpler for us. So it doesn't bog down in our minds that we have to do this, we have to do that. It's actually everything in one. and it must be treated that way. So my answer is, look at it as we are one. Me and you, Amalia, we are one. Me and my family, you and your colleagues, we as a whole nation, we are one. If you fail, I will fail. If I fail, you will fail. If the environment fail, we fail. So if we are one, like how the orang asli and the natives think, they've been sustainable all this. We are one. Yes. So why must we mental ourselves and separate it in small boxes and say, okay, we need to do this, we do this? No, my answer is do it wholesomely. That would be my answer, Maga.
All right. Thank you. Now we have one last question.
Go ahead.
What do you think are the challenges for corporates and individuals in adopting an ESG lifestyle? Sorry. Is the answer clear? Sorry, is the question clear?
Yes, very clear. Can I be naughty? Can I be naughty with my answer? Don't think too much. Don't overthink. Everything can be simplified, and it doesn't take a lot of effort not to think too much, then you see things clearer. The rest, we leave it to Allah Ta'ala. That's our responsibility. I guess don't be too human to think that we can solve the issues. Rely back on what is supposed to be done, and then inshallah we are just caretakers of this environment and the world. Be ourselves.
Okay, Chiraza, one last question actually. We received this from the floor. What are the trees that reduce noise pollution?
What are the trees?
Yeah, that reduce noise pollution.
Oh, okay. Any tree. If you plant trees and if you plant enough body of mass, which is the leaves and whatnot, it's supposed to do that job. It's supposed to address some of the issues. For example, in my house in USJ, we have this big, huge mango tree. It cuts off the sun and it cuts off the noise coming from the commercial side. In my space here in the training center, we have big, huge trees, and we have this beautiful bamboo tree. Those trees absorb a lot of sound too. So for me, any tree is a good tree. What's the best time to plant? 20 years ago, but today you can still plant for your 20 years ahead. Any tree.
All right, seems like we've reached the end of our Q&A session. Do you have any last words to the audience before we wrap up?
Okay, any last words? I'm not an expert in some of these areas, and there are a lot of experts out there in their own respective industries, sections and whatnot, all trying to make a difference in their own spaces. For me, my 2 cents worth is let's get together, let's band together, let's understand one another, stop haggling one another, stop mistreating one another, mistreating animals and so on and so forth. But at the same time, allow the good ones to lead us, into a better stewardship of our environment. What we've seen in our own country has not, it's not something which we can be proud of. We're damaging our own backyard day in, day out. So we need to address that. And it is actually up to you and me, people on the ground. Another book, maybe I can close that, is this really exciting book. It talks about a practical systematic approach in regenerative design. To how do one integrate in development? And it talks about coming from the ground up rather from top down. And it's happening all over the world. It is. Nobody can stop that. You've seen everybody coming up with now making a difference. So if you're somebody who has been pressing down, you need to rethink. You need to address that, because sooner or later you'll be out of your seat, and we're gonna make that mission a lifetime thing. So for everyone out there, do your bit. Just do it. Don't overthink and enjoy the journey. Really enjoy the journey. granted for us, inshallah. Thank you, Amalia and the rest of the team.
Yeah. Thanks again, Cik Razak, and thank you for the book recommendations.
Sure.
All right.
36 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, we are now on our last agenda, which is our corporate spotlight segment for today. Is Mr. Casey Lau here already?
I want to share the form. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Amelia. I can hear you.
Yeah, hello. Okay. All right, so start.
Good afternoon. So shall I start to share the file?
Yeah, okay. So, let's welcome our final guest speaker, Mr. Casey Lau, Chief Executive Officer of Inari Amertron Berhad. Mr. Lau will be sharing with us about the importance of ESG in his company and the importance of ESG for a company that is part of a global value chain. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lau.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, let me take off my mask because I'm in the factory. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, very good afternoon to every one of you. Thanks MIDF for inviting us to be one of the speakers. So I would like to quickly allow me to go in to share the content today. Probably give me a little bit of time to introduce to you Inari Amertron and also our capabilities. Then I will go into the sustainability approach and also the structure. More importantly, today's topic is the ESG practices. Okay, cover the significant impact and also to our corporate world. Then probably let me give some idea about what is the opportunity and risk. Okay, so that we can continue to sustain our business. Not only talking about sustain current, you also need to have a framework to grow forward. Okay, so I also put in some of our recipe, what I call waterfall effects to the local ecosystem. Then last but not least, we will have probably 15 minutes of Q&A. Hope that this lineup is good for you. So let me give you the history of the Inari. Way back 2006, we have a very good opportunity to start the business in Penang. Okay, so this is one of the very promising technology. This is RF technology for wireless communication, typically for smartphones and also mobile. With the single major customer and also the single product platform, allow us to play in the stock exchange during 2011. The reason I believe that you all know, during the many downturns, typically 2008, the big subprime issue, the smartphone actually behave totally opposite in terms of the market acceptance and also the new like a spark to the market. Okay, so with the 2011 of this ACE market, we are still the times very small, about 130 million market cap, if not mistaken. We managed to raise fund to acquire Amertron Philippines. Okay, sorry, I thought that's in the PC here. Okay, is it okay right now? Yeah. So with the platform of the listing, we managed to acquire Amertron Philippines and also Kunsan, China. So these two pleasant give us a little bit more product platform. Typically talking about the fiber connectivities and also some of the industrial automation, these automotive sensors, so that we can continue to grow our business into a much more bigger space alongside to our customer, their expansion plan. Okay, you know, our biggest customer in US, they continue
have the inorganic growth. So we also want to ride the wave. Okay, their current scenario is very simple. If you can stay with the technology, stay with the cost, and also the quality expectation with the end customer, they will continue to load us more. And that's why we, in 2015, we continue to grow forward. Okay, set up the Inari Semicon Labs, and then 16 we set up the Inari integrated for the mixed signal testing. And the last 2 years, we actually have the partnership with PCL, this listed company in Taiwan, and also we partner with MIT Singapore to do the customization and also automation process, because that bring a lot more excitement for us to grow our internal technology plus to offer more global technology to the MNCs. Okay, so 2011, 2011 and also 2023, these 3 years probably we want to play a little bit more into next expansion. Okay, in order for us to get more customer and also the business portfolio. Yeah. So with the pleasant of 9+1, why I put +1 here? Because we just get ready our P55. I hope that you can see my cursor. So this new building is actually to fuse our new platform. Okay. So I will probably run through very quickly. So in short, we have 9 factories located major in Penang, and we have 1 in China, 2 in Philippines. Okay. We provide the one-stop solution, which allowed me to show you the existing capability. This is the box here. We are very good in the wafer front end processing, and also we do a lot of SIP. If you are actually with us, you know that lately we double up or probably more than double in our SIP component assembly. Then in terms of testing, we cover RF, mixed signals, analog and digital. So this is our existing capability. Okay. Then this is the so-called new play for us to invest more pillar into our expansion. This is integrated module assembly. Okay. So I would not talk too much here. Probably give you the understanding about how our company set up and also how we treat our employee and also the stakeholders. So this is how we are putting a very simple, what I call economically elegant, okay, to ensure that all the people work with us in the safe and also conducive environment. Okay, so this is our boardrooms, this is our canteen, cafeteria. Okay, we also want to make sure that all these have a proper spacing. Okay, okay, come to production floor. This is one typical example. Okay, not all, just only I give you a snapshot because today is more focused on the ESG topic. Okay, so this is our size. If you talk about major, I would like to offer you the RF technology. We have more than 1,000 testers for one single product. Okay, so contribute about 60 to 65% of overall our year contribution into 2020. Okay, so this 2021, we hope we can continue to add in more business and also customer portfolio. Okay, so that we can continue to grow even bigger. Okay, so in terms of market segments and also application, so as what I said, RF technology in the smartphone and also some of the mobile devices. Then we also have about 10% in the industrial. Then 20% in the data storage, switches, fiber optical, transceiver communication. I think one of the usage is like now, we need to connect ourselves in the fastest speed possible to the data centers. Okay, so this is our technology in one of the connecting point. Okay, we also contribute about 20% overall automotive sensor. Okay, so in particularly in China, Kunsan. Okay, so this is our end market. Okay, come to the ESG topic. I think before we go into that, we need to talk about how to sustain our approach. This is very important. If you don't have the approach, I think you run the business or run any project, you will have a very good opening, but you don't know how to sustain it through. So that's why we start with our concept. How can we do it and meeting the booster main requirement? That is one of the very, very crucial requirement, because we are one of the listed go in Malaysia. So you need to meet this. But don't forget, we also have the US, the Europe customer. So we also need to have some other, what we call other platform for us to integrate into the booster requirement. So that's why I think this is like our Olympic ring. It's not today and tomorrow. You need to continue to carry on for many, many decades, okay, as long as you have the presence in the business. So that's why I try to put a picture to you. We have a long haul business, okay, we have a long haul sustainable business, plus our community service is so important. So with the inclusion of the this FTSE for Good last year, this also allowed me to say that we have more confidence to drive the best known practices, and not only talking about our own, we also get our customer from overseas to come to share their standard. Okay, so that we can continue to enhance our cookbook. Then of course that we also welcome you to give us some inputs based on the new learning. Okay, so this is the approach of us. Then our corporate structure, how to support this so-called the ESG drive. So we have our board charter to make sure lead the strategy and also get the budget approved, particularly myself and my team propose to the board. Okay, and of course that we also need to strategically go through what are those priorities. Okay, so this is our board charter. Then we form the SRMC, the Sustainability Risk Management Committee, led by Dato' Pang, one of the ID. So we need to continue report, okay, and monitor, more importantly, the progress, and also to assess, can we sustain, can we have the risk mitigation? That is the main topic in our SRMC. And of course, that's in our group. Myself lead the group under the CEO office. We always review the execution plan and also the progress. Typically, we need to consistently assess, like for example, the current situation versus the last year, and also the future situation. So if you don't have a proper anticipation, I think your business will have a very high risk, not only talking about risk in business, risk in your people and also your stakeholders. So that's why this is the balance of my CEO office to do all this topic with our SRMC, and of course that's eventually integrate into our board charter. Okay, so that's why you can see that I put the three circle over here is to sustain and also prioritize. Okay, with our team together with SRMC to ensure that the board can evaluate the situation from time to time. Last but not least, very important, you must have a very good team, okay, the working team. How you align them with all the important this so-called government law, all the regulatory, that you need to involve more and more working team, sub-team, and also some even we need to talk to our supply chain. So this is how the eventual flow of our structure. Yeah. So that is the very important roadmap of us. Okay. What I put here, the total participation. If you only have 1-2 party to drive the overall ESG, I think you will feel probably very tired and also be alone. Okay. So sometimes you say, hey, how come people is not listening to us? Why they have violation? So you need to probably I say look everyone into the picture. Okay, like everyone in the pool, so that you can drive it more easily. Okay, especially for myself, we have so many division, so many different practice of material and also processes. If a single CEO office to run, I think is very, very ineffective. So that's why from the continuation, you can see that in year 2011, we already have the CSR. You like it or not, you need to do this CSR. Okay, this is like way of life. You do it either big scale or small scale. Okay, but definitely you need to start somewhere. So we started in year 2011. This is the year I joined the company. And of course, that's with the backbone for us to embark into the corporate sustainability framework and reporting, 1st July 2016. So we take the years, particularly in 2015 or 14 at the time, our big customer from US, they actually started to talk about EICC standard, the human rights standards, and many other standards. Okay, luckily we have the framework that time, but a small framework. We are still not good enough. We improve a lot more team structure. Okay, so that's SWIG, that is the working team structure, to allow us to play. Okay, because if you are not inside their cookbook or their supply list, I think nothing much you can do your business with them. I think this is not what you want, it's a must. Okay, so that's why we take a very positive thinking process. Since we already do, why not do the best? Okay, from there we continue improve our situation and also our practices. Then 2017, you can see that we present the first sustainability statements in our annual report. You can get all the practices in our annual report. Okay, and then the inclusion will further enhance our confidence. Okay, in 2020. Then beyond that, we want to do even more improvement and also sustain through a long haul business and also the community service. Okay, I will share more later on. You can see what the main role of us into the community side. Okay, so come to the maturity assessment. Okay, what is this about? You need to assess. Okay, I think to make it simple, you need to have a plan. You need to do it, and then you need to check the result, and then you need to improve it. The PDCA cycle. I believe that all of you know that is a simple cycle, but based on the ESG practice here, we have to identify like a plan. What is the things you need to categorize it, and then put the priorities. Then after that, you validate. Okay, so put all your state's interests. Okay, typically not only talking about business, you are also talking environment. Okay, environment, like for example the waste treatment, for example the CO2, and many of the panelists just now shared. Okay, so all this is like elements for us to control. Okay, then last, the process review, very simple. You see the result is no good, redo again. Okay, redo, that means you need to put some improvement so that you don't do the same bad things or poor result. Then you just stay on it, just reassess it, and then continue to improve from there. Definitely every day you do it better, then I think you have a better result. Okay, come to the stakeholders. As what I mentioned, that everyone must be in the game. Okay, not only a single party. So that's why we categorize it like customer, top management, employee, government, regulatory, the supplier, and also more importantly, the last community, local community. Okay, besides the investor like you all, we would like to do all the balance. Typically, people will say, hey, you do too much on the ESG, you will erode your margin. I think we should balance this. Okay, same like last time, people say, hey, KC, you always give a lot of cost down to the customer. How to sustain your margin? I think proof that we can do a balance, the business will continue to grow bigger. Okay, it's not a matter for you to say, I lower down the margin because I do a lot of CSR. This is not the right mentality to run the corporate. You need to have these 3 or 4 components integrate together, so that you can continue to grow with a very steady support from the community, with a very steady support from the investor, and also very steady get the business from customer. I think this is what the important role of the CEO office and also particularly the board need to do assessment. Okay. So the ESG pillar, we break into 4. Some of the keynotes over here, instead of 3, we put in the economic here. The reason, because you need to sustain the business. If you don't get the business and community to agree, you have a good ethic I think no one will join your company. So I will talk about the economic later, but more importantly, come back to ESG. Okay, I believe that I don't want to jam too much of time. Everyone already gone through because myself is the last session. Okay, we can have a question. Let's say you think that you need elaboration. Definitely, I'm more than happy to explain on the environmental, social, and governance. Okay, to start with the environment, we strive, okay, this is our policy, we strive to deliver green, safe, and conducive environment. Simple to say so. Everyone also say, I want to deliver all this, but how can you do day by day and make this one as a culture? It's so important. Okay, so that everyone see this. Like for example, we practice lately talking about the face shield and the face mask. No excuse, including CEO. Okay, if you want to come to a factory, you better have these two protection. Okay, that is kind of the policy you need to cultivate. Okay, so that's why in the ESG we talk about the green partners. We talk about ROHS, reach ISO 14001. All this is our mandate. Okay, to make sure all the products gone through our factory, make sure that every element must be able to approve. Okay, not only talking about this body and many other approved body. Okay, I just give you a few. Okay, so this is the key elements we measure ourselves in our annual report. Okay, the power, the CO2, and also the water wastage. Okay, so all this is in our index. So you can see that we drive. Of course, for my side, I drive my team very hard in terms of the top line. That means the revenue side. And we also talk about the bottom line margin. Now, we also continue to monitor the efficiency about all these elements, including the next page, talking about the recycling of the material. I can't go into all the details example, but I want to give you some very simple idea. Like for example, recycling of the carton box. You know, we work with our customer here so near. We can drive our car, take the carton box back. So simple. But a lot of times people say, why waste your energy? This is not your major contribution. Carton box, how much you can save? Probably about 2,000 or 3,000 a day. Oh, sorry, not a day. Probably 2,000, 3,000 a month. Okay, of course that if you do it sincerely, you can see that this recycling is so easy. And now every site exercising this so-called recycling, then the mental and the culture preparation is much easy to enforce the participation. So everyone know, hey, this is not only one party is looking at it. It's customer, ourselves, and also our team. So this is the very important culture building. Okay, so that's everyone in the picture. Okay, don't just use top down, but is using the bottoms up. Okay, that is what my sharing here. Okay, come to the social, how to care our people and society. I believe that many times you hear that some big corporation, they face some problem because of the human rights, the child labor, probably the dormitory issue, the safety issue. All this one is our Bible. Okay, it's already in the public report because why? Our big company, our big customer from the big company, okay, they actually advise us. If you don't follow some of the EICC standard, which that's under the code of conduct, you might get into no business. Of course, you hear this, you say, hey, what happened? Because we follow exactly the law in Malaysia. Sometimes, if you work towards the Europe and also US customer base, you also need to consider yourself how to internationally recognize. So that's why we need to go beyond some of the things which we think that is good to put into the cookbook, become our best practices. Why not? Why not just go into the best? For example, I will show you some example. Like for example, dormitory. We contract. We probably I don't say contracted because very sensitive word right now. We actually issue a partnership with the local headcount supplier with the you know, the big fruits company expectation. Okay, we tell them we need to have the A+ type of standard. Okay, like for example, you cannot squeeze our workforce under the law, beyond the law. You need to provide the very good, like for example, mattress and the spacing. Okay, so I think many of the so-called SME is still very naive. Okay, as long as you have the roof, you can squeeze all the people in there. You think that it's good, it's safe. Actually, it's not. Okay, so we have a standard, like for example, how many people in a room. Okay, we have a so-called set standard, like 2 person in the 30 square feet type of measurement. Okay, so of course that's not only this, the roof, you need to have, like for example, the community, they want to work together in like for example PC zone. We provide the PC zone for them to mix together. Of course now need to have all kind of control, SOP control because of the pandemic. Okay, but this is how we set up before that. Okay, the multi-purpose hall. Okay, we have a security guard post, we have the facial recognition. We also this is the latest one because we need to integrate with the temperature monitoring. Then we also have the CCTV, okay, outside the campus, and also this inside the walkway. So all this is already equipped and become a standard. And of course, that day to day, how they can find their foods, okay, and how they do their training. So we also invite some of the partners to come into our dormitory. Okay, so I believe that our fruits company, our food customer came and they audit us. They feel so happy. Okay, last time they want us to do more. Okay, how to create this kind of synergy with our strategic alliance. Okay, so not only Inari can do this, other people also can do it. So this is like a peer pressure. Okay, then talking about other, I believe that sometimes we overdo a bit. Like for example, we have a big room, big common area. Okay, for them to gather together to do their so-called small gathering or parties. Okay, so this is kind of a dormitory we set up, the standard of us. Okay, talk about the community service now. Just only announced in the newspaper. I believe that you all know. Okay, beyond all this, so you can see that we do for police, for the GH, General Hospital, and also for the interns, plus the scholarship to the universities. I have too many to put it here, but I just want to show you that we do it sincerely. We donate, this is not a very big amount. We donate it with the end in mind to serve the community, and also hope that more people recognize Inari as a good company, more good talents can join us. Okay, so that we continue with the good talents to sustain the business forward. Okay, so this is one of the example. I think that we do fairly well. Like for example, the talent pool via the internship program we initiated in year 2015. Okay, during that time, I keep on thinking about what can I do to teach something which we already learned. Okay, that time I'm still young. Okay, about 25 years in the industry. What can I clone more experience of myself, my COO, like Sabran, like BS, and many of us, we should be able to become a good teacher. What I name it here is the campus in the factory. Okay, so you put the campus people in our factory so that to learn through all these skill sets which we grow from or we learn from our past many years. Okay, hope that one day they become a very good entrepreneur. Okay, and our next generation in terms of all kind of leadership, particularly in our field. Okay, either you can call yourself in the smartphone, in the industrial, or in the telecommunication, or the automotive. Okay, because I think all the products gone through our factory. Okay, so you can see that we already registered 2008 and 5 interns go through the past 6 years exercise in this initiative. Okay, I hope that all these so-called university will continue to go to sponsor or to do more with other either multinational or the local large company. Of course, better, let's say SME can adopt this concept. Okay, so I think That's cover the social. Then talk about governance. Okay, I still believe that this is the Olympic game for us. Don't stop here. After you do good, you need to continue to improve your speed, your productivity, and also your so-called elements of measurement. So that all the KPI can be captured and report to the public. Okay, so all this is our Bible. Okay, I think you can see that total 11 of this into our governance reporting. Yep. Okay, better things I would like to allow every one of you to learn or to share what our secret recipe. We won many awards with the hard work of TQRDBC. This is the framework of us, okay, to get a better result and of course a better involvement from our customer, from our employee. Okay, so T stands for technology, Q quality, R responsiveness, D delivery, cost, business and environment. All this one we work with our customer, and our customer have a very clear index, not only apply to us, apply to our alliance as well. Okay, all of them have a report card. Okay, like you attend your geography, your English, your science, all this. This is the report cards behind the TQRDBC platform. Okay, so we actually use this to drive our ecosystem and also indirectly become a waterfall to them. If you can get all these index and practices, okay, more importantly is the cookbook, the best known methods, so that all of them can become a billion company eventually, okay, after the listing. Okay, of course that's to show you whatever we say, not only talking about the awards, talking about the result. Since 2011 I joined, our revenue is just only 120 million. Okay, so now we hit the highest in FY18, 1.4 billion. Okay, so you see that last 9 months, we are already approaching 1.06. Of course, that's in terms of the bottom line, I think you all can read. Okay, we already 242, almost double. Okay, the FY20. This is our very good result during pandemic, and of course that we will challenge the historical high. Okay, and I believe that you also receive a very good dividend payback if you invested in our stock. Then you look at the payout. I believe that we came up since the inception. I think we pay more than 1 billion. Okay, in terms of the cash payout. Okay, so this is our performance. Okay, come to the force of how to integrate the joint force to make ourselves even stronger. You can see that the orange color, all this is our local ecosystem, which we started all the automation, okay, with them to cover, except one building construction. I think you all know P34 started with one guy called construction. I would like to give a blessing, okay, to this guy. Now this core construction is no longer small. They are only doing floor tiling last time. Okay, because of me, believe that they can do a better job. We provide the first project P13, okay, on the expansion. And today, they are getting multinationals contract. This is one example. Another automation example, I believe that you know the billion company, okay, in the this KLSC, also very back, not very far behind us, but is back to us. Okay, so this is also our contribution. This two men's company now become a multi-billion company. Okay, so this is how we can continue to use our ecosystem, our best practices. Okay, so that's to sponsor more successful candidates. Okay, never forget, like the intern just now we said, okay, we also we cannot say donate, we pay to their basic salary. Okay, follow the Malaysia law, the minimum wages, and also we have a very good employment, the performance-based sharing with our employee, including the ESOS. Okay, so this is all the important things for us to continue to grow the company, and of course that we integrate this, what I call assembly and test system by ourselves here. We develop a lot of software integration with the machine. That's why you can see that the teaming with MIT Singapore, we pull them here. We are not buying machine in Singapore. We design, okay, together with them in Penang, so that we can get more talent, okay, or learn through what is the integrated system now. I believe that you all know the Industry 4. Okay, so this to provide the economic change, okay, in order for us to play a bigger role with the multinational, especially from US and also from Europe side. Okay, never forget, I think China is also talking about how can we work on the Industry 4 so that get more platform, get more products in a very cost-effective manner. So imagine that why so important about this Industry 4. This one allow you to work remotely from US or Europe. As long as you can log in, you can see the performance of the products, the performance of the equipment. Okay, all this one is already in our portal, working with our multinational customer. Okay, so with that, I would like to sum up our sharing today. I put it down here. You need to continue to practice and progress the ESG-oriented culture for long-haul corporate sustainability and responsibility. The responsibility is not only talking about your top line, bottom line, your community, your stakeholders. Okay, back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Casey Lau, for sharing with us about your company. Do you mind if we go through a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so the first one, what are the challenges to adopt ESG in your company and in your opinion in general?
The adoption, I think you need to have the structure first, your understanding about what suppose you need to involve or to be involved, then you can drive the plan, do, check, act, like just now I said. If you don't have the understanding, you don't have the anticipation, I think very hard for you to start this program. Okay, of course that you can start with the single element first. Like for example, a lot of people actually go into the social. Okay, so I think like SME, they go into donation, they go into participation on the community work. You can start with small, but more importantly, go and attend these ESG classes. I think you all have this webinar. It's very, very fruitful. I believe that's not only for the shareholders, for the investor. More importantly, I also try to share across the community and society. Okay, so that they can get into the ESG understanding. Okay, so summary. Okay, understand first, then select your priorities. After that, you can put your working team. Okay, for us, we just take this one like execute a project, come out of products from the design cycle, how you put into the new product cycle, okay, then how you qualify the cycle, and how you put into production. So this is a standard flow. Okay, so quite easy for me particularly because it's not new to me. Okay, we started with the much earlier with our end customer in US. Yeah.
All right, now on to the second question. We saw speakers talking about gradual approach or incremental approach to ESG. What is your view from a tech or manufacturing company? What is your view from a tech or manufacturing company's point of view? Do companies in this space or sector needs to accelerate the pace if they want to be part of the global value chain?
Yeah. Okay, so I think I need to address two portions. One is the impact of the company. I think you know the factory, actually the world now become quite bad in the scenario. I think sick quite to a certain extent because a lot of people, they just want to do maximization of their factory, okay, or the output. They don't care about material coming in, is it follow the green rule or not. They just use whatever they like. Sorry, I'm not to against anyone, pardon me. I just tell my understanding and also what my personal feeling. Like for example, you use a lot of plastic. Okay, of course, plastic is cheaper than some of the so-called approved green material. Okay, But if you don't go into that direction, you will continue have a lot of scrap of the material and end up this one become a snowball. Okay, it become growing bigger and bigger and end up the world suffer right now. Okay, like we talk about simple things, talk about straw. I stopped using straw more than 10 years ago. Okay, the plastic straw. Who actually thinking about, hey, can I eliminate the straw or use some of the green straw? Okay, in the factory, you need to have the same thinking. Can I eliminate some of the thing which cannot be recycled? Which one actually impact the green, like ozone? Are you actually abide to that regulatory? If you are not, you better revisit. Okay, and you need to have the sincere revisit. Don't revisit because someone forced you. I think that is to build the culture, because you need to believe, you need to have a passion. Then come into the impact. Okay, the factory side, I think we cover the user. Now talking about customer side. Imagine today you talk to multinational. Sorry, I don't have ESG as my policy. I don't understand what is human right. You just give these two simple reasons. I guarantee you all the MNC run away. So-called the potential customer. So this is the very serious impact. Because why? Everyone already like or directly involved in this ESG practice already. If you are not in, I advise you better register part and parcel, okay, into these practices. Okay, so that is what my sharing.
Thank you. That was a great response. Do you mind to go through a few more questions?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So the next one, in your view, how do businesses balance ESG, which seems like cost for now, and financial performance?
Okay. So that's why I think just now I shared, if you are a reasonable corporate leader, you should always bear in mind, you cannot always maximize into the top line and bottom line. Okay, you always need to have a accrual for some, like for example, ourselves, we do internship. For example, we do scholarship for the E&E discipline or science discipline. Because why? We need to have the young breed to come in to support us. We get old, we need someone young one to drive, to sustain. If not, how can you say that you want to go into the long haul business? So you need to do something. Okay, of course that you don't do it like today I donate to you, or I provide the scholarship to you, next day you must join me. You don't expect this. Okay, the thing will come is the karma. If don't come, you just do sincerely for the society. I think this is the way and means and the belief for us. Okay, so I think that you need to put a portion of your earning into that pool, okay, and do it sincerely. Yeah. So I believe that you see our company, Inari Amertron, already passed 11 years in terms of the performance. We never say I do CSR, I go into negative. In fact, our margin actually improved from year to year basis. Okay, I wish that I can do more. Okay, because I think that is the snowball for more customer to come to see us, because we do more better balancing for our employee. Our employee feel better to work with us, and then they delight our customer more. So this is the so-called indirect effect. Okay, yeah, make them happy, then customer happier. Okay.
Okay, a couple more questions. In your opinion, is it better to think ESG at the initial stage of setting up a manufacturing facility or business, or can this be done at a later stage than this, after the business has achieved a certain size?
Yeah, okay. So this one also, we cannot U-turn or reverse back our company back to 2006. If you allow me today, let's say KC, you start up a new company, I believe that I will start with ESG in mind. Okay, because why? This directly give a good platform for you to stabilize your workforce, to stabilize your good practices. Because it's like ISO standard. You want to start ISO probably 5 years after your business conduct. You can do it 10 years later also, nobody will force you. But your customer probably is not a high top-notch customer. Okay, they won't come to you because you don't have ISO standard. Okay, some company probably they say you can do it later on, no problem, but later on you come to see me again. Okay, so it depends on your business appetite and your behavior. Okay, so if your behavior, you like to see the green environment, I purposely actually pull the 2 trees to you. Actually, if you come to our factory, you will see all the trees we plant ourselves, including the roadside. Okay, we offer to be this Penang MPPP. Okay, we say, hey, why not? We offer. So this is the belief you need to have. Okay, so that is my simple explanation. You should start now. Why wait?
Yeah, well said, Mr. Casey. Another question. Do you think that the investing community should ask more on these issues, such as work dormitories, etc.?
So sorry, Amelia, I can't get your question.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll repeat it. Do you think that the investing community should ask more on this issue, such as work dormitories, etc.?
Okay, I think this is one part investment arm. Okay, and also the investment community. You should drive like MIDF now. I believe that many are talking about the same topic right now. So the joint force of you all will definitely push the maximum. Not only talking about listed company, the so-called the second lineup like SME, they also believe this is a very, very important topic for us. So the joint force is very, very important. Yeah. So we really appreciate. That's why Mr. Sunny invited me that time. I think that this is my golden opportunity to participate and also share what's so important for us to participate and drive this ESG. Not only our Inari, with our ecosystem as well. Yeah.
All right. Actually, we've received a few more questions from the floor. Can we go through them? The next one, you mentioned about the need to have a strong ESG tech ecosystem in general. Are there yet as far as Penang-based tech companies in terms of its supply chain, local talent? Sorry, its supply chain and local talent.
I guess your question is the local talents can support the ESG. Am I right?
Are there Penang-based tech companies
are supporting this ESG?
Yeah.
Oh, if let's say they work with us, definitely. Okay, we need to have this assessment. TQRDBCE, just now I shared. The E is environment. Okay, so that actually we do not allow the supplier simply go and send in like solder, the lead solder, and also the cadmium ink example. Okay, we will ban them. We will make sure that in the so-called the supply chain we will take them out. Okay, so this is our drive. Then definitely they want to do the business with us. They have to apply. I believe that some of them is already doing quite fairly, quite good. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We're now on our last question.
Yep.
Any research results on tangible benefits of ESG requirement by MSC customers aside?
And any what benefits of?
Any research results on tangible benefits of ESG?
Oh. Any research on that? I don't do research on the return. Okay, I just do it probably with the happiness we can see from the people. Like for example, you know, lately I received some of the interns. They say probably they call me uncle or call me Mr. Lau. Can you allow me to join your company for the internship program? Because if I never get in the interns program, I might not be able to pass my semester. Wow, I think that this is a big pressure to me because of the pandemic. Currently, we need to control the workforce. But on the other side, if we don't allow them to come out, they will fail their semester, you see. So if you ask me to do research of this, I think many of the universities face this similar problem, okay? Because no one actually want to offer, let's say, for just only one social work internship. Many people fail. So what does it take? What does it mean to the corporate? That means you don't have enough engineer, like particularly in Batu Kawan, you know how many multinational actually build up. Where to get the engineers, you see? So this is kind of the impact. If you do a research, one small action will create a big impact eventually. So I think more or less everyone should face or should do some part and parcel work. Okay, so research is too big the word here, but I think do it sincerely is more important. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that was a great response. So we've reached the end of our Q&A section. Is there anything else you would like to say to the audience before we end this section?
Probably Inari, I represent Inari Amertron here. I would like to thank every one of you, give us a chance to present and also share our good practices. I already put all my thought and my past experience together with the team to make it like a blessing for everyone. Believe in us. We will do our best to support, not only talking about top line, bottom line, to support our way of life, to make it sustainable for the corporates and also a responsible party for the community. Okay, last but not least, I just mentioned that we also enroll into a big program, offer our P34 to become one of the PPV vaccination center. Okay, so already registered and approved by MIDF. Thanks MIDF taking into our consideration, because we sincerely want to help the SME and the society. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks again, Mr. Lam.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
You too. All right, with that, we have reached the end of our two-day webinar. On behalf of MIDF, I would like to extend our gratitude and appreciation for all the guest speakers and panelists for taking the time to share their views and insights with us today. And thank you so much to all the attendees for tuning in. We sincerely apologize for the technical glitches. Hope to see you again next time. Take care and stay safe.